Am I the only one that didn't know Jeverden and Perry's wild journey? Let's dive in. Michael Jeverden and Matthew Perry, two names, once synonymous with wild conspiracy theories. For years, they were dismissed as crackpots. But guess what? Their theories started gaining traction. From chemtrails to secret societies, these guys went from crazy to maybe onto something. Now they're known as conspiracy realists. Their ideas, once laughed at, are now being taken seriously. But there's a dark turn. Recently, new voices claim these two are on the brink of becoming domestic terrorists. Wild, right? So what changed? Are Jeverden and Perry misunderstood geniuses or ticking time bombs? Stay tuned, because this story's far from over.
That mountain you're climbing seems so out of reach. You've got to keep trying till you reach that peak. The view you're searching for is closer than you think. It's so worth all the pain. It's everything.
Kill me, son.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I hope everybody enjoyed our new voice of the show here. That is, I don't know who that is, but you know, he wanted to tell the story about us, and I'm glad he did. I guess we were once known as crackpots. Back when we were the theorists.
So was that in our first several years?
Yeah,
First couple of years, we were crackpots.
but
So we've evolved.
we've evolved.
We've grown.
We have grown. We went from being the crackpots, the people believing us, to, well, as you heard there at the end, could even be a little worse at this point. Which I'm sure here momentarily, we'll be joined, by our Secret Service friend. Any moment now will probably be joining us to let us know that, it's probably closer than you think. We may be the first two people ever to go live from a federal penitentiary. But so we just have to wait and see how that goes. But how you doing? It's been 2 weeks. Last week we were out due to floods, and seems like this is happening a lot. We come on here and say, prayers for everybody, all these floods. I mean, it just seems like we've talked about floods more than any weather phenomenon than they are any. I mean, a lot of people talk tornadoes and earthquakes and stuff, but it seems like we've flooded out about every other week or every month or so now.
And most typically, it's been western and eastern Kentucky, but eastern Kentucky was extremely fortunate this time
Yeah.
because I'm not 100% sure, Mike, had they got flooded
No.
that those people could have recovered. A lot of them are still in the recovery efforts from the previous flood,
Right.
and so. But when you go and look at places like Frankfort, more centrally located this time, up in the northeast, up around Cynthiana, Cincinnati, the Ohio River is extremely high, out of its banks, flooding a lot of places. Right now, I go by Cave Run Lake about every day, and man, Cave Run
It's
Lake
up there
is,
good, isn't it?
man, it's up too. I mean, it's scary. It's scary high. But fortunately, this area wasn't hit, um, and thank God it wasn't. But those are natural phenomenons that seem to be happening more
Happening a
frequently.
lot more, right?
Yeah.
I know. Well, still right now. I mean, we've got. I don't. Well, do you have water?
Yeah, we got water.
Because I know as of last night you hadn't, got your water. So that's what I was going to say.
But I have taken a bath.
Well, I know you smelled pretty good when you come in here. I'm like, you finally got to take a bath after about a week and a half or whatever it's been. About a week. So I mean, that knocked out a lot of our water. And we did have some flooding here, but nothing like other areas, like central Kentucky and, places like that. I know in Franklin County, I mean, that was a pretty sad situation. Had a kid, fall into the water on the way to the bus stop and, was washed off. I mean, that was, sad time. So, I mean, these flood waters are starting to become more and more severe, seems like, more and more happening more and more. It feels like just 2 years ago, we were talking about the Eastern Kentucky floods, down in Breathitt and Perry, and on down that way, and now it seems like it keeps inching a little bit closer, and then like you said, Western Kentucky, they're really really prone to tornadoes, but they got a lot of rain this most recent round here, and
You all had about a 2 week break here in the
Mhm.
county. You all
yeah,
got a
today
2
was today was the first day back to school, and we went on. Well, it's kind of weird. We went on Christmas break and was out for almost 6 weeks. About 5.5 weeks. We went on spring break last week and went back today. So I mean, they may quit giving us breaks because it seems like every time we go on breaks, it gets extended. Um,
I'm sure your kids enjoy that though.
oh yeah,
But
move that
when they're
camera
going
around
in
a
the
little
middle of
bit.
June, they won't like that at all.
No, I would imagine they would probably rather. See if we can get us on camera here. I know you want to be on that camera.
I am pretty.
You are.
I smell good too.
I asked him a minute ago. I said, "Why don't you scoot a little bit closer to me?" Because it's like I was kind of worried how that was going to go if he didn't get his water fixed. But let's see here. See if we got anything going on.
Oh, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
E911 West Liberty. Wanda says there's power outage in West Liberty right now.
Bryce was just telling me.
Um,
Traffic lights are down right now. And
Phone was down last night. Mountain Telephone had some outages yesterday. Appalachian Wireless was out last night in a lot of areas. I don't know. Somehow or another, I'm keep continuing to come close, get off the phone, the camera. I think I'm trying to push myself out of the camera and just let Matthew be on there or something. I don't know what's going on here.
That's okay. That's okay. But it's been 2 weeks since we've had our last program.
She's starting to burn up in here
There's
now.
a lot of things going on. A lot of things in the news. A continuation of a lot of things that we talked about. We're finding out what we voted for. And a lot of the things I have to ask.
Did you send me any pictures, by the way?
No.
Okay.
No, didn't you?
Okay. Just making sure.
But I am going to look at you and tell you this. 86% of America pretty much voted for the issues that are going on in America. Yet you got a lot of people continue to complain about Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, and we'll probe more into that as we go on. But Mike, those checks just keep growing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
waiting,
excited.
I'm waiting for that Doge check.
I'm excited.
But
I like seeing.
But let me say something. I don't want it any sooner than necessary
No.
because
if you get it now, you're going to get lesser than what you would get if you get it later. Right?
Yeah, because what's
any type of money would be nice right now.
They're going to continue to find fraud in the millions and billions of dollars, and they are going to give it back to taxpayers. You're going to get your money back because somebody fraudulently misspent your tax dollars without your
consent.
Right. And I say that is Republicans and Democrats.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it ain't just one.
But there's a lot of things going on in the news with Trump and his tariffs, the Trump economy. The inflation's down, Mike.
Well, depending on which media source that you watch. If you watch certain ones, and I just saw one a minute ago. Said egg prices are at an all-time high. Egg prices are going down. And then
the price of goods overall are going down.
You could go on to, it's actually a left-wing website that shows that inflation has dropped like 6% over the last few weeks, and it's like, so even when
it's down. Inflation is down 2.4% in the last month. That's the lowest level that it has been in 4 years. It was as high as 9.1% during the Biden administration. 4 years of soaring inflation, grocery costs, prices out the roof, price of gas was high. I see a lot of posts on Facebook where people are complaining about the price of gas. Well, all depends upon where you go purchase gas. There are places where you can get it for $2.56 a gallon. That's pretty cheap.
Here.
$2.75 around $5.19. $2.75. But you go to Grayson, you get it for $2.56.
I did see this pop up in the news. Yeah, there was a Keystone pipeline shut down due to a rupture in the pipeline, and then as you see here, higher gasoline prices could lead. We're hoping that doesn't happen, but you know, I remember from 2017 to 2021 during the first Trump administration, things didn't just happen like that. Things didn't happen instantly. They
Well, if you
It
expect,
takes time to do it, and if you think that someone can pick up an ink pen on the day of their inauguration and just sign a bunch of orders and things are going to change, now it would if it was going up. Because if you remember when Biden took office, gas prices went up 30 cents the next day.
well,
It's
Trump,
it's a little
made,
easier to make it go up than it is to go down.
but Trump made the promise, Mike, that on day one he would attack these problems, and that's exactly
Well,
what
yeah,
he
I
did.
mean that's what those
through
executive orders
signing
and stuff
about 100+ executive orders to date in the first 90 days, and all of them are targeting the accelerating cost of goods. But yet, if you are on the other side of the aisle, you expect instantaneous results. Well, what about the last 4 years? What do you expect the last 4 years? Because I'm sorry,
You
things
agree
haven't.
with what Chad says here?
Yeah, that's exactly
Exactly right.
Yeah, we're trying to,
We got to fix
he
that last 4 year. Yeah, I mean that's exactly right.
Well, I'm going to go back and say this. We're going to have to fix probably some issues that have been in this country for, I'm going to say, the last 50 to 60 years. You talk about tariffs, Mike,
Mm-hmm.
uh, import taxes or excise taxes imposed on goods coming into a country. We're getting eat up. All right, okay, I'll give you an example. Japan brings automobiles over here and sells them inside the United States. We charge them a small percentage and tariff of around about 10%. We're not allowed to sell American-made cars in
Japan.
Japan.
That's
Doesn't
right.
make a hell of a lot of sense. I
Why
mean,
would we allow?
why would we allow that here? But here's what I'm going to tell you: these retaliatory tariffs, reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah.
That's what you got.
Yeah.
You put 10 on me, I'm going to put 10 on you. Well, all these people that have stepped up to the plate, Mike, and basically stated that.
Well, a lot of them jumped up and said, "That's okay. You want to go 30%? We're going to go 30." But then what happens is he just keeps hitting them with it, and they're like, "Screw it, we're going to cave."
Okay,
And
well,
and then they stop it.
Okay, we'll give you an
Except
example.
for China.
Okay, give you an
China's
example.
the only one.
Okay,
so far.
we had a tariff with China. Any goods that we brought into China, we paid a 20% tariff. Well, they imposed a 34% additional tariff on that. We're paying around 54% tax on the goods that we bring in. Okay, well, that's not what's going on over here. We're charging them 20%. They are absolutely taking us to the cleaners.
Well, what people
so
don't.
what Trump did, not to interrupt you, is Trump has basically stated we're going to give you a deadline, April 9th. If you haven't reduced your tariffs and come to the negotiating table, we're going to levy this amount on you. And he took that tariff from, I want to say, 10, 20% to 104%. And then they still don't want to negotiate. He took it to 125%. So I'm going to ask you this question.
They're
Okay,
going to have to
okay,
cave eventually.
Okay, you know why they're going to have to cave, don't you? Here's why they're going to have to cave. And this is the reason. The United States of America's economy makes up 25% of the world's GDP. We can be self-sufficient, Mike. We can make everything that we need or grow it here. Why do we need these other countries?
And the thing is, people don't know. There's 170 countries that have tariffs on the United States.
And I'm going to tell you,
and
every
everything
one of
we
them,
hear about is Trump signing tariffs
Yeah,
to
we're
put on other
mad,
countries. But 170 other countries have tariffs.
Okay.
Tariffs on us.
Okay, let's talk about tariffs. I'm going to give you an example here.
We've got a
What
question.
countries have the highest tariffs on the United States? Let me go there first. Canada. What's happened to Canada since Trump basically went to the bargaining
It's
table
been
and said
They released
Basically.
theirs, didn't
they have absolutely done away with all tariffs now,
Right.
which ultimately is going to save who money?
Us.
Americans money.
Consumers.
But also what it's going to do is Trump has told these companies that if you want to escape these tariffs, the way you escape them is you bring your factories to America and we're going to create American industry. And he just signed some executive orders this past week for clean coal production.
Yeah.
Watch, coal's getting ready to fire back up. Everybody thought he forgot about it. Coal will keep the lights on. And
That's a
what
good
it's
song.
going to do is it's going to create thousands and thousands and thousands of good paying jobs.
Especially here in Eastern Kentucky. You know,
And, that,
that
and
used to
hold
be-
up, the
used to be a
economy of Eastern
big booming
Kentucky
thing
was
here in the
completely
mountains.
destroyed by the Paris Green Deal.
Absolutely.
I mean, we needed to eliminate that altogether. Okay, you say, well, oh, it's damaging the atmosphere. Well, what's the number one country for the use of coal production? It's China. They're not caring about the atmosphere in which we
Right.
live. So in turn, if they don't care, I'm not saying that we don't want to live longer, healthier, prosperous lives. We do, but coal is in abundant supply, and if we can use that to create an energy source, we need to do it. At the same time, we need to find additional energy sources that can help us to reduce carbon emissions. I agree 100%, but you just don't eliminate one and destroy communities in the process.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize too, like a tariff. Like we would use say China or one of those countries in that area. Say they, I use Nike as an example. It cost them $5 to build a shoe. Well, they sell it to us for $100, and we're having to sell it for $150
But-
over here.
okay.
So it's not costing them anything.
Okay.
So that's where.
It's called unfair labor practices. I don't mean to interrupt you here. Okay, is Nike a foreign? Is Nike an American-made company or a foreign-made company?
Well, you would imagine it should be here,
Started in
but
Nike was started by Phil Ford up in Oregon at and around the University of Oregon, the Oregon Ducks. Steve Prefontaine is the first athlete in the world to ever wear a pair of Nikes. Nikes were made here originally. The problem is Bill Clinton signed NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Act, which allows companies to up and move from the United States to Canada, destroying American lives because factories are shut down, jobs are lost, unemployment rates go up. They go to Canada or they go to Mexico, or they can go to a foreign subsidiary like China or India and make them at much cheaper rate.
Basically
Pay
nothing.
slave wages, pretty much. I don't mean that being mean, but that's
Right.
exactly
No,
what it
you're
is.
right.
You can pay somebody 50 cents to assemble a pair of shoes, turn
That
around and
costs
sell it for
$5, and then we have to sell them for $150
Perfect
here.
example
This is what they sell 'em.
Martha, remember she got busted because she was using sweatshops and stuff to make.
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart. She got busted on that, and that's a perfect example of that.
Well-
That they regulate.
Well,
other
I love Nike. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like Nike products. I feel Nike shoes are probably some of the most comfortable out on the market. For me, I like Nike compared to Under Armour. When I was growing up, Nike wasn't really that popular. Converse was popular. What they called those? The gym something. Oh, those Converse, those canvas Converse. Chuck Taylors. Chuck Taylors was the big thing.
You would have to ask some. Well, you would.
Well, that tells how old I am.
Somebody else would
But
answer that question.
but those Chuck
Got
Taylors
another old one.
were replaced by leather. And when I was growing up, we bought Converse. And then Nike became marketable because of Michael Jordan. The problem is Michael Jordan is one of the single greatest basketball players in the history of the planet, has never came out and condemned Nike for Nike's practices. Why? Because they're paying what? They're paying him $1 billion. They're paying him royalties.
The man's going to be able to live the rest of his life on a shoe.
Well, same way.
Not
with LeBron James.
not anything. He don't have to worry about his other merch or anything like that.
But are they making these products in American factories, or are they making them in sweatshops?
I would imagine they'd be in sweatshops, being
Because
made
cheaper.
for little to nothing. Like Wanda says here, she worked in 3 factories years ago. They moved the factories to Mexico for cheaper labor.
And that's exactly what NAFTA did to us. It's what we call it's called being taken behind the woodshed. What Trump is trying to do is correct decades of unfair relationships and stop other countries from ripping off the United States. They are ripping us off. American citizens are basically getting the shaft on this. It's the truth.
Yeah,
Let's
we're
just be
mad about
honest. And we're mad because Trump is trying to impose fair practices What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Okay, China's doing it. You said 70 countries. Every one of those 70 countries.
107.
Hold up. They're all knocking on the door right
Right.
now saying, Mr. Trump, we want to make a deal. We want to make a deal because Trump, they need us worse than we need them. The United States of America, and I promise you, can be self sufficient. We don't need those people, but they need us. Their markets need us.
Got a question here. Says, just curious, how many of you have noticed tariffs? I haven't noticed anything. How are tariffs affecting you all?
I can tell you how they're affecting us. David, they've created billions and billions of dollars of additional revenue for the United States, which means we're going to reduce trade deficits. We're going to allow you, and I say you, I say me, I say everybody in this room, to be tax free. Kentucky is the second state. I don't know if you all saw this or not. Kentucky, Mississippi was the first state. A couple of weeks ago, we mentioned this on the program. Mississippi was the first state to attempt to abolish state taxes. Kentucky is the second state to do it. They're right now, it's being lobbied in legislation to eliminate taxes in the state of Kentucky. I'm telling you, they're going to get rid of the IRS, Internal Revenue Service. Trump's going to call it the External Revenue Service, and it's going to be tariffs that's going to pay for everything. And you're going to have the opportunity to have more money in your pocket. You're going to be able to live a happier, healthier, more economically prosperous life. Now, are you seeing those results right now? No, but I say by June and July, you'll feel it. You will start to see it. And when you get your Doge check, you just remember, all you people that are speaking out against Doge, I'm going to give you my damn address. Send me that check because I sure in the hell will spend it and spend it freely. I don't care to spend your money.
I said that. I said that over on the podcast there that I recorded a week or so ago, talking about the Doge checks. I'm like, for all you that are complaining about it, I would be happy to have your checks. So make sure you send them to me if you
They'll
don't want them.
spend it, honey. They won't care.
Of course, a lot of people I know has heard of GM. GM has announced it will increase hiring and production in Fort Wayne, Indiana, at a truck plant after tariff announcement. So GM was a company that you were starting to see, move out of the country and everything. Chad says not until we get rid of Deacon Andy. But now here's something, Chad. Now that you brought that up, here's something that really shocked me. The U.S. Senate has passed a resolution to block President Trump's tariffs on Canada. Now this was 2 weeks ago, but I just wanted to share this because I think Canada has caved since then. 4 Republicans joined the Democrats in voting yes to block it.
To block what's this?
This is to block Trump's tariffs on Canada, but now this was about 2 weeks ago. I think it's happened since then. Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, and the guy that created the bill, and the most shocking of all, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Rand Paul sided with 3 other Republicans to block President Trump's tariffs on Canada because he said it would actually cost us. So that actually kind of shocked me a little bit to see Rand Paul vote against it like that. But what do we got here? Yeah, well, when it comes to local stuff, I mean, we could sit here all night and talk about a lot of the local things that are going on. I mean, we're, and I did want to say that too. I meant to say that a minute ago when we was talking about the water issues. I've seen so many people complaining about not having water. You got water back, yesterday?
Yeah.
But I mean, you never complained about it. I mean, you stunk real bad, but you didn't really complain. But
Actually, I didn't stink because I'm going to be honest with you.
You went to the creek, didn't you?
No, I've got access to a shower by a well. We have a well.
Well, that's good.
We have access to, we have a neighbor that has a well, and they offered us the opportunity to come down there and take a shower. So we, shows you what kind of good neighbors you have.
Yeah.
Some people will stick their neck out to try to help you, and I appreciate what they did. And
I am too, because
the only thing is,
definitely was worried about you coming here tonight.
I I know you was. But
But I do want to thank. I want to thank the Morgan County Water District. I don't know. I haven't seen an update this evening, so I'm pretty sure they're probably still out working. But they've been out working day and night on them cold nights and that water up to their knees and waist. They're cold, hungry. Probably would love to just get to go home and lay down. I mean, they've done everything they can, and to see so many people complaining down there about what their water bills are going to be, it's like, what would you do if these people just said the hell with it and they went home?
well, it
Then
makes
you wouldn't have no water.
Well,
So
it
they're
makes-
out here busting their asses to get you water. Sit back, let them get it fixed, and then worry about your water bill when it comes out. I mean, we never lost water here, thank goodness. We didn't get hit like that. But you know, if we did,
Well, it
I'll
makes
go
you
in the creek.
appreciate. It makes you appreciate the simpler things in life. You know, we're spoiled. We have created a spoiled society, Mike, where we get everything at the tips of our fingertips. I mean, it's there. I remember, and I say this. It tells you how old I am, folks. I remember being a young kid when our water went out. We had to go to the creek, and we'd take the creek water and we would boil it and then use it as hot water.
You probably didn't even boil it in your time, did you?
I stood in the creek.
with a bar of soap.
But that goes to show you how things have changed, and we've just created a society where, okay, when people's power goes out, they are distraught, they are upset that their lives have been interrupted by something catastrophic. Well, you know, you can buy you a generator.
Wanda says it best here too, though. The water issue at this time is beyond our control, and that's right.
That's exactly right. It's nobody's fault.
It's nobody's fault. You can't point fingers and say, "Oh, you didn't do it," or "You didn't," and anything like that. You didn't do it. No, the water company has done everything they can possibly do to help everybody. It's nobody's fault. Nobody has control over them water lines, and the way that it's going on, the way that it's going on is, you know, you just got to let it. I mean,
Well,
Melina said it right here. You know, somebody, when they would hook up one line and the pressure would shoot through the line, other lines would bust. So I mean, you know, that's not them. They're not busting lines on purpose. You know, nobody at the water company said, "Hey, I don't want them to have school for a week, so we're just going to," you know, there's not. You know, let these guys do their jobs.
No,
let them
it's
get their
just-
water on, and
Well, this is, you know, it's nobody wants their life interrupted by something catastrophic. You know, we have storms that cause all this flooding. I guess a lot of these water lines were disrupted. It caused breaks. It's nobody's fault. But you know, but you got to praise people that are out trying to get your water back
Could've been
on, get your
worse.
power back on, because their services go unappreciated most of the time. Because, like I said, we just take it for granted. We take it for granted, Mike. We just assume that, you know, our lives are not going to be interrupted.
Could have been worse.
You know,
2012, the situation was
yeah, pretty
so
bad.
Lisa was just high water and some water lines being out.
So like I said, I didn't complain. You know what I did? I just went to my neighbors. I took a shower, used well water, and I was appreciative. And I continued to go on. I was hoping that it would come back on as quickly as possible, but I realized there were multiple places in the county that were out. So what do? You just make do. That's all you can do. Same thing when your power's. You complain all you want, but you're not making the problem any simpler.
yeah, like I said, you know, it's bad. What did David say up here? I didn't get to read his because of dipshit there.
Nobody thanks the people. Nobody thanks of the people working at the water company
Until they don't have water. That's right.
And that's exactly
well, David
right.
was David.
They
he's
go
what-
unappreciated.
David's what? City Gas. Is that what David is? So you know, I mean, if you live in West Liberty, you know, and you're out of gas, and you know, David and them's out there, you know, busting their butts, you know, trying to make sure that you get your gas box, especially in the wintertime. You know, or these cold nights that we're having right now. I mean, these guys are out there, and all of this.
Well, it always helps that if you're fortunate enough to, you know, maybe have, like I said, access to a well. You know, a lot of places are not hooked up to city water. You know, they would rather have their own well because, you know, the ability, the issue of being interrupted is probably less likely with a well than it is with the city water. But, you know, the water lines are made readily available. You know, they ran water lines out our way. We hooked up on it. And like I said, I'm appreciative of
Yeah,
the
we
fact
got
that it's
we got
there.
a brand new water line ran up 191 here 2 years ago, maybe 3. Now, um,
We don't realize what a pain it is till our own water line on our own property breaks, and then you have to dig that thing up. And God, it's a hassle. So I'm appreciative of what those people do, and like I said, I know they took a lot of criticism on Facebook, but I think people just prematurely are thinking about themselves instead of thinking about the blessings they have in life. It could be a lot worse.
oh, a lot worse it could be, absolutely. And well, like I said last night, the phone company, I saw Mountain Telephone, had put out a thing that there was a phone outage in a part of the county. Appalachian Wireless was out, and a lot of it's due with weather. I mean, there's mudslides and these hills. I know right down here, at Likens Loop, there's a hillside starting to come off, and I think there's a telephone pole right on it. So I mean, that's going to come down in the road whenever that happens. But before we move on to the next thing, all right, I've tried everything I know to do. By now, you probably already went back to wherever La La Land you live in, but everybody, you're not going to be able to see this. Actually, when I try to even put it up on the screen, if I hit, let's just hit David's. See, when I hit Wanda's there, it works, but when I put this one up, it's already been deleted. So, this Trent Brock character, that keeps popping up here and all this crap.
Just put the picture that you screen.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. Just basically come up here and said that I'm teaming with other school board members to take down the Morgan County people. That I'm teaming with the deputy superintendent, and we're going to try to take everybody down, and we're corrupt, and the people's going to find out. My constituents and the rest of Morgan County is going to find out who the real Michael really is. I assure you that your mission will fail. I mean, seriously? Dude, you don't know who I am. I mean, is that you, Deb? Is that you sitting there, Larry? I mean, unless it's somebody right here, we don't have phones. Nobody knows what I'm doing. Nobody knows yesterday evening how hard that it was to keep up with 50 and 60 messages at a time for people messaging about this middle school thing. You don't know nothing, dude. And until you know it, don't come on my program. Lose my information. Get the hell out of here. Go somewhere else. Go aggravate somebody. I'm sure there's somebody else out here. It says that a specific mission, you were tasked with a mission, and I want you to know that it's been completed. Then go the hell away. Please, go away. Don't come back. Go to McDonald's or Hardee's or wherever it is you work. Don't go to Hardee's. I like that too much. But whatever you're doing, just go away. You don't know me. I've got a lot of my constituents right here, right now. A lot of these people that you see in these comments are my constituents, and I guarantee you they'll everyone tell you that nowhere last night when I was talking to them did I say anything about backing anything. Nobody knows any of that stuff. A lot of that stuff going on at the middle school right now, I don't even know all of it. I'm just learning it as it comes, and I brought it to the people because being transparent is what I ran on. That is exactly what I ran on. So, I did exactly what I wanted to. But, I mean, it's just unbelievable that we can't even have a live broadcast. I mean, that was the funny thing at the beginning of the program for all of you that heard it. I played a little thing talking about me and Matthew. I'll play it again for you if you want.
Am I the only one that didn't know Jeverdon and Perry's wild journey? Let's dive in. Michael Jeverdon and Matthew Perry, 2 names, once synonymous with wild conspiracy theories. For years, they were dismissed as crackpots. But guess what? Their theories started gaining traction. From chemtrails to secret societies, these guys went from crazy to maybe onto something. Now they're known as conspiracy realists. Their ideas, once laughed at, are now being taken seriously. But there's a dark turn. Recently, new voices claim these two are on the brink of becoming domestic terrorists. Wild, right? So what changed? Are Jeverdon and Perry misunderstood geniuses or ticking time bombs? Stay tuned, because this story's far from over.
What changed is because we've got a moron in the comments that keeps coming on here every week trying to say he come on last night. Deborah's sister's post of all things went on to Deborah's sister's post and tagged me in it. So that's how I was able to find it, and made it out to be that I had turned my back on the county, that I had sold out, that I'm the most corrupt person in the world, and the truth would come out eventually. Well, I've been in for about 100 days, and you will be getting a report on my first 100 days here pretty soon. But I've been in almost 100 days, and I don't feel like I've done anything corrupt. I've not sold nobody out. Glad that you did take a bath, but never sold nobody out, never did anybody wrong. It's just, if your mission's complete, then block us, forget about us, go aggravate somebody
In
else.
fact, he's saying you're collaborating with people that have been irritated by you standing for the people at times. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah. Did you post that in the comments?
What? You want me to put the picture
If
in?
I could figure out how, I will.
Here, I'll do it.
But it won't let me do it on this thing for some reason.
It's so stupid.
Probably got me
I
blocked.
mean, I wish he'd tell his real name. I mean, honestly.
Well, that's not his real name. He's probably like a 10-year-old. Probably that little feller that hollered at me today at school.
I say it's only you think you're a close friend.
That's what I think too. It's somebody missed.
Well, I mean, it used to be that Matthew was the problem child with me. Now he's going after board members and other members of the school district, and it's like, no matter what people's thoughts are on those guys, it's nobody's business what's going on. And to come on here and bash people on here and try to say that, I'm conspirating against people or whatever. Deb's going to post it here in a minute, but it's like, dude.
He won't let you put a picture on here.
Hey, that's probably because the Wizard of Oz over there has probably got something blocked. But I mean, yeah, I don't know why it won't let me put no picture up. But anyway, oh Lord, I don't know. But like I said, I see a lot of my constituents on here. I know a lot of people aren't either, but I know a lot of people on here are. And
Michael, you can pull it up on like how you do your videos and stuff. You can add it to your
right. But
I can get it to do it.
we've got a lot of people, and if you really think that I'm a sellout to each of you, and that I haven't been good, anything for the position, let me know, and I'll do better. But I really don't need some little loser on here that probably sits around picking his nose in his mom's basement all day, trying to tell me what I'm doing wrong. Because I don't think that's for that person to decide. If I'm doing something wrong, the constituents can let me know, hey, we need you to do better. We need you to do this. Look into this. And I don't know. But your name hasn't came up in the last two. So the mission was complete. Now he's just going to try to attack me for everything.
Well, one, let me say this. What goes on in this county as far as school-related issues, I am a taxpayer. But
Well, I'm glad you
okay,
finally realized that.
I am a taxpayer, and it does affect me. I don't have any kids in the school system, so for me to have a dog in the fight as to whether or not I'm going to take sides or not take sides, I'm not going to have any more kids, Deborah. I'm not having
No,
any-
she said grandkids.
my grandkids will probably not go to this school. I can assure you that. I don't mean that being mean. My kids.
Here you
will
go, guys. I'll let you guys see.
my kids are probably, my son lives in Pikeville. He's probably going to raise his family in Pikeville. No telling where my girls will settle. Their kids may
Well,
go
yeah,
here.
they're in other areas right now
But
themselves.
let me say this: the only thing that I've noticed that you've done has been transparent. You brought these issues,
and I'm not even your representative.
You brought these
You know,
issues out to the forefront and allowed people to decide for themselves what side they're going to take. And transparency is the best thing. If you're doing something representing a large contingency of people, transparency is the best thing. Get it out in the forefront. Don't keep it hidden from people. Let people know what's going on. That way they can decide whether it's best for the community. That's all that's my gist on it.
Yeah, and I'm not sitting on here saying that the other reps, the other representatives in the other districts are doing a bad job. I mean, if you don't think that I'm doing a good job or one of your other school board members ain't, let us know. But don't don't become somebody like this guy and get on here. Oh, Larry. But but it's like, I don't know, man. It's just crazy. This guy's been after us since probably last fall when the Herdman Field thing started, whoever it is. And then they've been after me and you for the previous maybe a month or so, with the conspiracy theorist thing, and then domestic terrorists and everything. And then the last 2 nights, last night during the middle school talk, and then all this other stuff. It's he's been on there, which I told you before we went on the air. I said he'll pop up at some point tonight, and then you see, what kind of stuff that I have to deal with this person. That anybody that's listened to anybody that listened to my podcast or anything, you know what I'm dealing with. What did Wanda say here? Good Lord, the Karate Kid up here. But yeah, Wanda, I agree with that. It's like I don't know. I don't know
But
what it is.
let me say this: by the
I
first,
didn't get to take a screenshot of the message last night because it was on someone else's post.
by the Constitution,
By the time that
Mike,
I went back and been able to get it, he had already, and I would imagine that's already deleted too. That's why you all see me take that picture of the switcher here real fast when that happens. But
by the Constitution, the First Amendment, we're entitled the right to speak freely about issues that are going on locally, on a state level, and a national level. We have the right to voice our opinion about those things, whether we're in agreement or disagreement with those things. That doesn't mean that we're trying to destroy the United States of America. No. If anything, I'm looking at you telling you for the last 4 years that there were billions and billions and trillions of dollars being spent frivolously and wasted. And now all of a sudden we've got an organization that is discovering that, and people are mad. What I'm going to look at you and tell you is, people are mad at Elon Musk, and they're saying, well, Elon Musk was not elected to that position. Well, neither was Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci wasn't elected.
right,
But yet he told you for 4
but yet
years
he's the one that made you do everything that.
he created the restrictions that destroyed the majority of small businesses in America. 6 feet social distancing, wearing a mask, closing indoor dining on businesses. He did all that. But yet America stands true behind Dr. Fauci, but Americans are right now protesting. You got a large contingency of people. 4 months ago, they loved Elon Musk because Elon Musk was going to take us to the moon and Mars. Now they're
Gonna
all
build colonies on Mars.
Now they're against him because he's called out fraud and frivolous spending and misappropriation of funds. And now they're burning his what?
Yeah.
His automobiles. His business establishments are being tarnished. You can't have the best of both worlds. You can't love someone and then hate someone, or you either love to hate them, or you're either going to love them or you're going to hate them, or you're going to love to hate them, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
Does he say anything else?
No, he knows if he says anything else, it's going to get a little worse. Best thing he could do since the mission's complete is move out of here, go somewhere else, disappear. Maybe his computer will crash or, whatever's going on. Melina says she thinks she's got an idea, but, we don't want her to put it on here just in case.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know who the heck it is.
if you don't agree with what we say, you have the ability to do what?
Turn it on.
Turn the program on. You don't have to agree with everything I say.
I'm sure there's a baseball game on.
You'll never see me in public come up to you and say, we disagree. And because we disagree, I want to push my point on you. Just because I say it here doesn't mean I'm going to go out here in society and criticize all the people that believe differently than me. No, it is what it is. 99.9% of the stuff we report is there for you to find.
Well, that's why, I've got some links that, I'll share here shortly. And every one of them is from a different source. But you could see the source. I picked some that people would think would be far right, some that's far left. And that's why I put them on there. That way you can't say, oh, these guys are only choosing, this.
Good example. Good example of what you brought up there. Okay, a few minutes ago, you were talking about that Donald Trump had basically placed restrictions on Canada. And there were four Republicans, 2 from the state of Kentucky that voted against that.
Paul, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, where's Grassley from? Is he from here too?
Grassley's from Kansas.
Okay, I know I saw someone said that he had done it too.
But what I'm going to look at you and tell you is they think these things, okay, the market saw a plunge. The market saw a plunge immediately. Now what's happened to the stock market? The stock markets saw a dramatic increase overnight. Good times are coming, folks. The problem with society is, Mike, most people do not want to think. that the people that they have elected would betray their trust. The United States Congress members, if they are part of this, giving huge amounts of money to NGOs, federal agencies, and these agencies are misappropriating funds, that's your tax dollars, people. Why would you be mad about that? Okay? If you don't care about your money, why don't you just donate that to the Matthew Perry College Fund? I'll take every damn bit of it. You don't have to worry. Just if you want my address, I'll send it to you. Send me every damn dime you got.
Well, if you don't care, could I borrow a few dollars of that so I can try to put some kind of block on this thing so idiots can't get
So,
on here and try to cause trouble with everybody?
Okay, there is nobody that is struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, that is trying to get ahead in this world, that is going to waste more money than they possibly can. You're going to watch every penny. Most of us are penny pinchers. We don't spend more money than we are allotted or we have for a reason, because we know it's going to do what? It's going to put us in debt. And when you get in debt, the very problem with getting in debt is it's extremely hard to what?
Get out.
Get out of debt. Look at all these people, college age students. I remember being in college. First thing I got in the mail at my college dorm mailbox was I got a credit card application. You can get you a credit card. And I thought, as grown up as that sounds, I'll end up spending more money than I'm taking in, and I'll end up head over heels. And then you got a lot of people at the college level that get those credit cards, and next thing you know, they're in debt deeper than their heels, and they can't get out. We just want the ability here in this country to enjoy the money that we make and have enough to spend on leisure activities and get by without having to worry about always having to be behind the eight ball. So if
you like shooting pool?
Yeah, I like to shoot pool.
Heck yeah,
But
there
what
we go.
What I'm gonna look at you is I also like to have money in my pocket.
Absolutely.
I also like to be able to go places and spend money without having to worry if I've overspent, if I can afford that. You shouldn't be able to do that. If you're out here working hard and you're doing right by society, you're following the rules, what's wrong with having more money in your pocket? Why should the government waste our money? Okay. And I say this: we rebuilt Europe after World War I. Go back and look at it. We spent the United States of America entered World War I in 1917. We brought with us fresh troops, supplies, military weapons. We helped basically negotiate a stalemate that ended the war. We were in for 1 year. We suffered fewer and far between casualties than most countries, but we emerged economically prosperous. World War II, we rebuilt Europe again. We're still rebuilding Europe. The European Union, has had control over the United States since the 1940s. And what's happened is we're fitting the bill through our tax dollars for everybody around the world. Now, I got no problem if we're fitting the bill for American citizens that in dire need and are starving and struggling. Give them money, but don't give it to people that are not worthy of it. We've got a lot of non-citizens. Hey, Doge found a lot of non-citizens have been signed up for Social Security, Medicare. They're getting to vote in this country. Well, that shit stops with the SAVE Act. It stops.
Speaking of
You will have to provide proof of what?
Up here shortly, won't we?
You got to provide proof of what?
Citizenship.
And you know what? Here they come out in mass number. It's voter suppression. You're trying to suppress people from voting. No, you're not trying to suppress people from voting. You're trying to make sure
that it's done the legal way.
It's done the legal means way.
Robert says Joe Biden paid off a lot of debt off for those students and those credit. Well, Nora had said, when I filled out my papers for college, I got a credit card application in her packet.
Yeah.
So it's here you go, fill this out,
Well, and you're 18 years old. Most people 18 years old, I don't mean this being mean. Some are more mature than others. I graduated high school. If you gave me a lot of money, I probably would have just burnt right through it really quickly. You gave me a credit card, I would have used it probably more frequently than you could possibly imagine. So it's probably best that I didn't have that. But some people are stingy with money and they don't spend it all, penny pinchers as I call them. But some people, they overstep their boundaries and they spend more than they need to, so to speak.
Well, I'm
But
going to tell you a story then, since you like spending money, and you told me something a few weeks ago. Me and you's going to go fishing. Me and you's going to go fishing this summer. You told me you like to fish, so me and you's going to go do some fishing. You like going camping? We usually go camping. Now Larry won't come down there either
I
because
like
he's
to
scared of
camp
the
every
outdoors.
once in a while.
Larry's scared of the outdoors. So he hardly ever come down there. But
No deer tick.
You're afraid of what's in the dark, right?
yeah, there ain't no telling.
And there ain't no telling
I
what's.
wonder. Let's see. I wonder if the tax-free overtime will be taxed at the end of the year.
No.
Tax.
No, it will not be taxed at all. Tax on overtime will not be taxed at all. Can you understand what this does for Americans
No,
by
that'd be awesome.
alleviating that?
Especially a lot of your factory workers that work like
Do
60
you realize
70
how
hours
much?
a week. I
Okay,
mean, that's
do
crazy.
you realize how much money the government generated off of taxation on overtime?
Which is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Okay, you work those hours thinking you're going to make a little bit of money, and you don't really make a whole lot at all. So that in itself is a benefit to the workers of America. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, Social Security benefits protected for elderly aged Americans, which should be. If you are 65 years or older, you shouldn't have to struggle month to month to pay your bills. I know you're on a fixed income, but you shouldn't have to worry about that. You have probably worked enough quarters and paid in enough Social Security that you should be able to draw something that allows you to get by. And with the accelerating cost of goods, Mike, these Social Security recipients and people that are on the SSI, take that as well, they are struggling because they're on a fixed income and prices are fluctuating up and down, and most importantly, not down. They're mostly going up. Now they're starting to see those goods gradually start to come back down. No inflation. Trump's economy is working, folks. Trump, we voted for this. People that voted to see Trump get a second office, we voted for the 288 jobs that were created, 288,000 jobs that were created in the month of March. We voted for inflation to see a dramatic decline, 2.4%, the lowest level in 4 years. We voted for what we call the elimination of unfair trade practices that these other countries have had on us. And if and when we get to celebrate with all this money, if you still don't like Trump, give your money back to those people that voted for him. That's all I say.
Well, I'll make a deal with you then. If you don't want to go fishing with me,
I didn't say I wouldn't go fishing with you.
me and you are going to take a trip back in time for 13,000 years ago in time,
Oh my God.
and we're going to go back and find us a dire wolf. So what do you think about that?
Science has the
So
miraculous
so
ability.
basically now they're saying that there could possibly be a real Jurassic Park.
So
if you can bring back a 13,000-year-old extinct animal, and it's back now, so I guess now they'll be cloning dinosaurs, and we'll be able to take a trip to Jurassic Park before too long.
So they took, I'm assuming, the skull of a dire wolf and they extracted DNA and were able to clone it. Am I right when I say this? So
I think there's
so
two of them.
hold up a second.
Three of them.
Okay, hold up a second. So
right there.
So we're talking about the word cloning. Am I right when I say that?
Right.
Okay. So tell me when the first cloning event took place. Most of you will say this. The first cloning took place that you are aware of was in 1998 when the mass media announced that scientists had cloned a sheep named
Oh, yeah, that's
Dolly.
Yeah.
That is not the first instance of cloning. In 1901, a German physicist by the name of Hans Sperman cloned a salamander. Let me say that again. In 1901, see if I'm right. Hans Sperman cloned a salamander in 1901. Okay, so let me say this about science. If science evolves at the rate at which we think it does, Mike, which means every 10 years, science explodes with information. They cloned a salamander in 1901. What would they have been able to do by 1931?
1902.
1902, okay.
A German embryologist successfully clones salamanders by separating the cells of a salamander embryo.
So once again, I'm what?
You would be correct.
I'm correct. Go ahead and tell me I'm correct, Mike. Say you're correct.
You're correct.
Okay, good. So I know my history. So if they were able to clone a salamander in 1901 or 1902, it was right at the beginning of 1902. What would they be able to do 30 years later? What would they be able to do 60 years later? What about 90 years later? So it took from 1902 to 1998 for them to develop the technology to clone a sheep named Dolly, whereas 100 years previous, almost, they had cloned a salamander.
Well, I mean,
Come on, folks.
if we're
Come
going
on.
in the pattern
They-
of going to the moon, it would be correct.
Well,
You can believe what you want. Call me a conspiracy theorist all you want to. I don't care, Mike. I'm going to look at you and tell you that if they cloned something in 1901, at the end of 1901, the turn of 1902, 50 years later, they would have the miraculous ability to clone anything they wanted to. Because, you're right. They would be able to clone a person.
what's he becoming?
He's becoming a conspiracy theorist.
Conspiracy theorist.
I know my
You're going to be sitting right here with us before too long with this little prick message in you.
But what I'm going to look at you tell you, Mike, is they give this to you, and what they don't give you is the beginnings. And they is 1998. Government scientists.
Was 98 the salamander?
No, it's 98 was the sheep named
With the
Dolly.
sheep. Okay.
1902 was the salamander.
So
I do remember the salamander.
and I'm sitting there going, okay, we're okay, 1998. Okay, let's go. 2008, 2018, 2028. We're 3 years from being about 30 years from the first announcement of Dolly. How far has science evolved?
Yeah, they should have a whole island full of these wolves if that's the case.
So,
but I mean, to me,
So my question is this: maybe if they don't tell you what's going on,
right?
You won't be fooled when they do tell you.
Yeah. One thing I said when I first, besides, we're going to Jurassic Park, because they're that crazy to do stuff like that. But if you've got enough time to sit in a science lab and create some kind of animal that went extinct 13,000 years ago, why are you not got a cure for cancer on the shelves everywhere?
Well, there's a reason for that. Okay, there's a reason for
They
that.
don't make money on
You
it.
should be able to go to Family Dollar and get a cure for cancer for $20 or something other. If you
But
can
you better
afford it.
believe Donald Trump. Listen to me, folks. Donald Trump is a genius. And I know some people are going to come on here and say, you're crazy. Donald Trump is an absolute 5D chess player.
That's going on the
Genius.
big screen right there,
Okay.
Melissa.
He's a genius.
You need to quit lying to Brock.
Okay. Donald Trump is a genius because Donald Trump, if I'm not mistaken, during COVID in 2021, look this up. He enacted Kodak to do what? Do y'all remember Kodak, the company?
Wasn't that a film company?
That was
Like
a camera company.
Yeah.
What did he enact Kodak to do in 2021? Donald Trump. Kodak. That's going to come into play because what you're going to find is they're going to go after the pharmaceutical industry. Probably the single most powerful industry
They
in
done
all of
already
America.
sued him over it.
Huh?
They're already sued him over it.
That's exactly right because Kodak is going to revolutionize modern medicine. I think Kodak was used to create something for COVID. Am I not correct when I say that? 2021.
They're trying to get Kennedy impeached
Oh, wow.
because he said that you don't need all this medicine for diabetes.
So what's happened to? Okay, I ask this, Larry. You could probably answer this better than anybody. 50, 60 years ago, most people didn't rely on modern medicine. They relied on
Home
remedies.
home remedies. Yeah. What happened to all those home remedies? They weren't. They're no longer published in publications.
Pharmaceuticals took them over.
That's exactly right, Bob. Because I was always told that if you got a cold or you had a scratchy throat or you had a little bit of strep throat, that
Get you a shot of.
they would my family, they called it a shot of tonic.
Mhm.
Tonic. They called it hotsy totsy. Anybody remember that? I think that's what they call it.
They call it a hot.
Hotty toddy. Hotty
They
toddy.
call it hot shots
Okay,
now. But,
hotty toddy. But basically,
Hot toddy.
yeah, hot toddy. Yeah, just a remedy, a old time remedy. What older Americans did to try to combat some of this stuff,
and it worked.
and it worked. But the problem is, medicine has become big business, big
Oh,
business. And for anybody to speak out against it, oh my God, you and I'm not saying
Yeah,
that
actually, I
medicine
think
doesn't.
we're on YouTube tonight, so
Yeah.
they're probably getting kicked off
Okay,
again.
okay. But I'm not saying that modern medicine doesn't create miracles, because there are some people that it does work miracles for. But there are old time remedies that could also be substituted for modern medicine that would alleviate cost. Medicine is expensive. Try going to the hospital in an ambulance. Try having to stay about 3 nights in a
Do
hospital.
you know someone personally that
I
did
know
that?
somebody personally. And
Kind
what-
of recent.
and what's sad is
Uh,
this, and like I said, I'm not throwing that out at anybody. But what I'm gonna look at you and tell you is right now the cost of insurance is
You can't
sky
get it.
high. You can't get it, and a lot those people that have it better consider it a blessing and be fortunate, because it does help alleviate some of the cost. Not all. I mean, I'm fortunate that where I work, I think it's 80-20. They pay 80%. I got to pay the other 20. But that 20% still ends up being what?
More than the 80.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's accelerating costs. The medical industry itself has become big business. And I'm not saying they don't save lives, because they do. I'm very appreciative of what doctors do. I'm appreciative of the doctors that kept me alive, because I'm going to tell you right now,
It could have been a bad
it could have been a
situation.
bad situation. I could have bled out right there. But I had people looking over me, and I had God looking down on me saying, "It ain't your time to go, old pal." Or very well, old Perry might have bled out right there and bit the
Then I'd
dust.
have been here by myself.
Yeah, you be pulling this off here,
Yeah.
but
Brock would
but-
have been
Yeah, I'd
on
have
his
Brock
own.
here with me at
but
that point.
Kodak, in my opinion,
Do you want to know what it
Yeah,
says?
okay.
So it says Kodak's CEO unlawfully traded company stock while negotiating confidential game-changing $655 million loan with Trump White House early in pandemic. Kodak doubled down on fraud and misled investors.
I don't believe that. I'm just going to tell you what Kodak's going to do. Kodak's going to revolutionize, in my opinion, part of the medical industry. I think that when all is said and done, you'll see a lot of these, and don't quote me, but I do think in time a lot of these pharmaceutical industries will go under, and Kodak will alleviate some of the costs on Americans. I know Kodak as a camera company,
Right.
because Kodak had cameras. They had the
Kodak moment.
Kodak moment. Yeah, it's a Kodak moment. But Trump enlisted them during the COVID.
It says that they had secret meetings with Trump, and there was some fraud and stuff going on, and they're supposed to testify in open court where the facts will be exposed before the American people.
But what were they supposed to make?
It doesn't say.
Because he enlisted them to make something.
Nora's talking about honey and whiskey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
buddy.
and that's an old time remedy.
And
Are you saying that? Are you saying Nora's old? Is that what we're saying?
No, I didn't say
Nora?
No, I didn't say. But that is something that rather than go and pay the
Well, I
cost
watched
of
that one sitting over there just
a doctor's
a week or
visit.
so ago. She had a little scratchy throat, sore throat, or whatever, and took a shot of that hot shot. I guess they call it now.
Fireball.
Fireball. That's what it is.
Right.
A fireball. That's what they call it.
It'll
And
clear out congestion.
so, I mean, she just wanted to get drunk.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, is what it really was.
But what we're saying is these old time remedies, you know, a lot of this people don't know this, Mike, and I say this. All you got to do is do your history and look at this. Okay, John D. Rockefeller was the first oil tycoon in America, and what he did was he invested as a philanthropist an enormous amount of money.
It's coming up here.
An enormous amount of money in the American Medical Association
Maybe.
to eliminate these old time remedies to get medicines that were petroleum based. Why? What's he involved in? Oil. And what it did was it eliminated all these natural remedies, natural cures for a lot of these so-called diseases. And now it's moved more towards leniency on medical professionals.
Well, I mean, Larry probably did too, but I had an uncle. You know, he would go out here and pull barks off of trees
Well, ginseng.
and do things, you know,
Okay.
different plants and stuff that you could use as medicine and different.
Look at ginseng.
That's right. You know, a lot of people here go.
Sassafras tea.
You're right. A lot of people here will go into the wilderness and they will hunt for ginseng roots, and they will dry it out and they will
What's
sell
that
it on
called
the
over there
market.
that they make?
and-
Your mom and them.
It's witch hazel.
Witch hazel. Now, you know, you would hear something like that and think it was some kind of potion from, you know, some kind of witch movie or cartoon or something.
Well,
But I mean,
they are witches over there.
It's
On
for
that.
hemorrhoids.
Yeah, but they are witches over there.
Well,
on
she
that.
said it's for pain in the ass. So obviously, I haven't drunk enough of it.
Got
So
some for you guys.
I was told Stacy Fork had a lot of witches.
There's one.
we know there's
No,
more,
I'm
don't
just kidding.
we? No, we're not talking about you,
But-
baby.
But you know, we've got away from that. We've
She
got
ain't
away
on
from that.
Stacy Fork. She's on Big Grove.
If you want to check out one of them is like dandelions. Like they've encouraged us to spray weed killer
Here
on
it is.
dandelions. but there's
Melina
a-
just said I'm going to make some
Yeah.
dandelion jelly soon.
But there are a lot.
She
of
needs to
health
share that with
benefits
us.
Yeah.
With dandelions. In fact, back in the day, the old timers used to pull the
Well,
grass.
my
away
yard
from
is
the
full of 'em.
dandelions to make
My
them
yard is
bigger.
full of them, so anybody would be welcome to
I
come and
could-
get all of them.
I cooked them in chicken.
Come and get them all you want because it's
Like,
full.
just pull the flowers off and season them in with chicken.
You ever tried that?
Yep.
Well,
So what
You
is
can
it?
get
Is
them
it
all
just-
then.
Is it?
Buddy would pick them and put them in greens, and
Right.
Have you had the jelly? Have you ever had the jelly?
No, I have not.
People make jelly out of it, and then
Just so you
some
know,
people
Nora's
make
saying
like a-
Nora's getting on to you for calling her old.
I did not call her old. But you know, we've got away from that. How many parents of kids today still use home remedies to cure some of these ailments?
I'm sure there's some here and
Some?
there, but not a whole
Probably
lot.
back up in the hills, and maybe.
Maybe Eastern
Your
Kentucky.
Mennonite community
Yeah.
and stuff still uses
No,
it.
Mennonite,
Yeah.
Amish and
Amish,
stuff. Yeah.
But most people don't because we stopped passing those things on down
Well, they
because
wanna
it's
abandon
just
it.
simpler to take our child where
The doctor,
to the doctor and get modern medicine.
pharmacy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
told someone the other day, I said, when we were growing up, we got a big cut on our arms. Our parents always said, rub some dirt in it and go on. So we did. And they healed. You know, you rub dirt in it now, they probably try to give you some kind of tetanus shot or
You know
something.
what they all
Well,
Right.
if you ever watch the series Survivor, there was a participant on that show that got a cut on his leg, and it could have been very bad, and he peed on it. If you pee on it, it'll take care of it. Urinate on it. Now, you might want to clean it after you do it, but you know, if it works, it works.
How far back you say that wolf was?
13,000 years ago.
What
Right
did-
about the time, right before you were born.
What did people look like back then? Was they people?
That's a good
I
question.
don't know.
How did they know about dire wolf that many years ago?
Right. Yeah, well, I've got a lot of questions about how they knew what the T-Rex looked like
Oh, yeah, they-
66 million years ago. But, you know,
Wasn't no such.
he's starting in, boy. Tomorrow night, guys, live, the Larry Jevidan Show. You know, we'll put
But,
him.
hey, I mean, a lot of people have to see to what? See to believe it.
That's right.
Now, I mean, you
I
can
mean-
bring me a white wolf and say, hey, this is a dire wolf.
Sure. Take that dog and
It-
bring me white.
It could just be a regular old wolf that you've grown and raised up, and, mated with a white dog or something, and have it in a zoo somewhere.
But most people they're just like that. I got to see it. I got to see it to believe it, and that's why a lot of times on this program we've talked about things that that are going to happen, and they'll say, "Well, that's not going to happen." I got to see it to what?
See it to
I got
believe
to
it.
see it to believe it. Okay, I'll give you another one. I talked about this a long time ago, and people thought I was off my rocker.
What did it say we were?
We were
in the
crackpots.
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 Back in the
Okay,
day when you was a crack
just turn on the media. Turn on the media.
You know what the crackpots is.
Yeah. Turn
Oh,
on
yeah.
the media, right?
Oh, yeah.
Turn on any media station right now and just listen for the next week and see if media stations are not talking about Donald Trump potentially getting a third term for office.
Sean Conley says, "Don't believe everything they tell you."
That's exactly right.
Exactly right.
Okay, and okay. And the question I'll
That's
say
probably
is this:
true.
somebody looked at me and said,
Crackpots.
"There's no way Donald Trump can get a second or a third term." And I said,
Well, they
"Why?"
don't really know history.
I said,
though.
"Well, the 22nd Amendment deals with the legislative amendment that was in place after FDR. It says that you can only be elected president twice. Key word is elected, but it does not talk about succession to the presidency, which means if Donald Trump is elected vice president and the president resigns or steps down for some reason, he could be what?
Again,
He could be president again. So, there's the way things are worded can come to fruition. Our founding fathers worded it that way 230 plus years ago. We don't know the exact true meaning of that. We've just interpreted it to mean 2 terms and done. That doesn't mean that you can't serve more. But I'm telling you, there's everything that we mentioned in the first year, second year. A lot of those things are coming to fruition, Mike. They're here now. They're becoming more apparent in the news. Fraud is one way of exposing this. Who am I? Most American, and you got people questioning you, saying, "Who are you to question the government?" These are the people we
Obviously,
elect.
we've been doing it for a year.
The Constitution says that any time the government is abusive to the people have the right to abolish that government in favor of a more democratic government. It goes to the very heart of a democracy. Do we have rule by the people? Okay, are people getting their voices heard? If they're taking money and they're spending it and it's going back in their pockets and they're spending it on things that are of no use, you have the right to speak out against that, and you should. And you should.
Larry, I'm getting an alert here that says Forrest is watching, so you can give him a shout out. You know who Forrest is, don't you? Not Forrest Gump either.
He might be good.
Trump called it Liberation Day. April 2nd was Liberation Day. And everybody's like, what are we going to be liberated from? That's the day all those tariffs went into place. And your life is going to be made much easier, I assure you. We're going to be energy independent. We're going to have an abundance of money coming in. We're going to have so much money coming in from economic goods that guess what? We don't have to pay a dime of taxes. The rest of the world will pay it for us. And you're going to say, how do I know this? Because we've been doing it for them for years. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's time for change. Give Trump time to change it. I will say by the time he's done with this term, you will be living very, very, very much more prosperous than you were when he started.
I hope so.
Write this down.
Hey,
Can't be no worse. I mean, at this point, it's already starting to get better, but it's not going to happen overnight. Like
Maybe we'll get $2 or $3 $5,000 check.
Oh, you might get more than
you
that.
may get more than that. $2 trillion is what they were saying they would need to get to 5,000. But if they hit $4 trillion, which they probably shouldn't be that hard to do, you could get 10,000. Whatever how it would go.
Well, the tariffs are expected to bring in $600 billion to the U.S. Treasury in 1 year. Now imagine that, huh?
That's crazy. We're mad that.
And we're mad. And we're mad. I don't understand how you can be mad.
I don't either.
You ought to be mad. Oh, wait.
I
I'll
get
tell you
mad
what.
when
I forgot to say it. I forgot to say it, and I'm going to say it back. Listen, I'm going to say it with a smile. I can't wait for those people to come out with flags that says, I support China. It's coming. You watch and see. They will have flags that will say,
Guarantee it.
I
tell you,
stand,
we were in town,
I
so-
support Ukraine. I support China in Trump's attempts to levy 125% tariffs on them.
Yeah.
They have absolutely took us to the woodshed since the 50s. I'm telling you. So you'll wait and find out. I'll bet you China backs down just like every other country. I'll bet you that we make.
It didn't take Canada long to do it, did it?
No, it didn't take Canada.
Right
long.
there, Melissa mentions a really good point right there. Because the TV told them to be. The TV, people can flip it over. It don't matter which one of the networks they're watching. They can flip it over there and they can say monkeys are running loose in downtown in the city somewhere and they're eating everybody's arms off. Oh my God. And it not even be real and the people flip out. You know, I mean, anything that they tell people on the news, they believe it and they freak out.
Well, we've got away from, and I hate to say this, the more technologically based we are, you would think the more research that we would do, but instead we rely on alternate sources of information to be our researcher. I don't rely on the mass media to tell me anything because I don't need them to tell me anything. Because if I want to know, I'll go research it and I'll find out the answer. And I won't rely on one source. I'll rely on multiple sources. Multiple sources. Okay, I'll give you one, Mike. I'll give you one. Listen to this. Let's talk about border security. What do you think about the border right now? Did you vote for border security?
Well, I voted for border security, absolutely. But I'm going to be honest with you, over the last 2-3 weeks or so, maybe, I don't hear about the border as much as we was.
You want to know why you ain't
Want to
hearing
know
about
why
it?
you ain't heard about it? It's because it's pretty much locked down.
Okay, and what that's telling you is that the Department of Homeland Security is doing their what?
Is that Christy Nome?
That's Christy Nome. She's doing her job. Did you know that? I bet you didn't know this. What government agency collects tariffs?
I thought about that a while ago.
What government agency collects tariffs? You would think it would be
DHS.
the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, or the Department of.
Homeland Security.
Homeland Security.
It is the Department of Homeland Security, the last department that was created after 9/11, the most recently created program. They're the ones that collect these tariffs. Christy Nome, she's doing her job.
Actually, I just saw a thing on her. I can't get this thing to work half the time now, but that's.
But the reason I brought that up was this. You know,
I wonder why the IRS doesn't.
okay, let me say this. In 2008, I want you to listen to this quote now. In 2008, who said this? If illegals committed a crime in the United States, we need to deport them.
That would be a very one Barack Hussein Obama.
Okay. On the same CNN forum, another individual with Barack Obama said any illegal should pay a fine for coming here illegally, pay back taxes, and learn English. Who was with Barack Obama on that CNN forum in 2008? Huh? That's right, Hillary Clinton. Do you know she's in the news this week? She was in the news this week. You know why she was in the news? She was in the news because she said that the SAVE Act was voter suppression, that Trump was attacking married women that have changed their names.
Yes, I saw that.
Absolute bullshit.
Saying that if our name was different than what was on our birth certificate, we would not be able to vote.
Yeah, voter suppression. Yeah, I know why. But let me say this.
Well, a lot of people's name would be different. Than
Have
their
you heard
birth
of one?
Right.
Okay.
That's what they're saying.
Have you-
If you got married and you took your husband's
Right.
name, you could no longer vote because it didn't match.
Right.
You couldn't verify.
Ain't that the silliest thing you've
Okay,
ever
let me
heard?
give you another one. Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, he's a.
He is the House Minority Leader, Democrat, is under fire for claiming that the Democrats want to secure the border and make it safe. They've come full what, Mike?
Come full circle.
Full circle. For the last 4 years, you allowed that border to be open. You allowed 21 million people, unvetted, unchecked, to come into this country, many of which were dangerous MS-13 gang members. And what did they do? They killed, raped, and murdered innocent Americans. And yet, now all of a sudden, they're switching gears. And I'll bet you $100 within a month they'll come out and say that Republicans were the ones that wanted the border what? Open. They're good about turning and flipping the switch. They got to reinvent themselves to try to get voters. Because guess what's getting ready to come up, Mike?
Midterms.
I bet you $100 Trump's got a card. It's called I think I heard one of his, I think it was Harold Lutnick, talk about the Trump card. Did you hear him talk about that? The Trump card's going to come out very soon. That Trump card will come out right before the midterms, and you watch and see what will happen, Mike. You're going to get a Republican red frickin' wave.
Well, we can only hope.
Okay, now let me give you this. 2 million encounters with illegal immigrants in 2021. We saw a dramatic decrease in the number of encounters with illegal immigrants since Trump has come into the office. Safe and secure border. Did you vote for that?
Yes.
We voted for that, and we're getting it. Promises made, promises kept. Now, I don't know if you all saw this or not, but Donald Trump is under attack this week.
Every week.
Okay, but he's been under attack.
He's been under attack for
But-
about 9 years.
Okay,
now,
this
isn't it?
week he's under attack for deporting an innocent Maryland father. Did anybody see this? Did you see that? They are all over him about deporting a father from Maryland.
Yeah.
What the media didn't report to you is that the individual that Trump had deported, that was a Maryland father, was a member of the vicious MS-13 gang, which Trump designated as a foreign terrorist organization. He was involved in human sex trafficking.
He probably had deported them.
Foreign terrorists don't have legal protections in the United States, so he deported him. Yet, you got a lot of people saying that these mass deportations shouldn't be taking place. What shouldn't have happened was, over the last 4 years, we should not have left the doors open on that border, because you wouldn't have to be mass deporting people if we would have done it the legal U.S. way. There are laws in place. Those laws are made for reasons to make sure that we are not overrun and we are not invaded. And we were invaded over the last 4 years, and Trump is correcting that problem.
A lot of us are
However,
still
the
paying for it.
Democrats are come full circle on this, and
Yeah,
now
they're
they're
fixing
saying
it
they're
all.
about a safe and secure border. And I promise you, it won't be long that they'll be saying everything that they were for. And I'll give you another one. It won't be long that they'll be saying that Republicans were for men playing in women's sports.
Well, Larry
I'm
is
telling
too. Didn't you see his post on Facebook this morning?
But they've done that all throughout history. Because they'll blame Republicans for slavery. They'll blame Republicans for trail tears and everything beyond that.
But the Republicans passed the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery.
Right.
But they come full circle and say that the Republicans are
But they're
Are
the ones that have
racist.
suppressed people throughout
yeah.
history.
No, they have not. It's been the Democratic Party that's done it.
Speaking of racist,
Jasmine Crockett will be your next president.
that's your next president. Speaking of racist,
No, your next president. You want me to tell you who it's going to be? It's going to be Donald J. Trump. Go ahead and write that down. Donald Trump will get a third term. I'll bet you.
Princeton professors suggest that all 78 million Trump supporters, Trump voters, are racist. All are. This thing's been.
Did you see where Trump cut off millions of dollars to
I can't get it to do
federal grants to Princeton because of anti-Semitism?
He said that he disparages Trump voters for choosing a felon and not wanting to vote for a black woman.
It's got nothing to do with voting for a minority. It's got to do with voting for somebody that's going to
There
put
he is
America first. Trump has done that. Everything that he has done through his tariff policy is about Americans and American workers. We're trying to put American workers in better positions, give them better paying jobs. More better paying jobs means more money. What does the economy do with that more money? It flourishes.
back
If you
into
got
the-
more money
right.
in your pocket, you're going to do what?
You're putting
And
it
as
back
you
into
see
the
here,
economy.
Chicago cancels their Cinco de Mayo parade fearing Trump immigration threat. Afraid that if
Well,
I mean,
here's your problem. You've got the mass media that is constantly bashing Trump for all this stuff. But you've got Democrats here in 2008 that were saying the same thing. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. Go look it up in a CNN forum where they were
Yeah.
saying deport them. If they're doing illegal acts, arrest them. Make them pay back taxes. Make them learn English. But no, Trump is what we would call a xenophobic. He's against foreigners. No, he's not. He is for the American dream. He wants people to have the opportunity to come here, but we can't just allow mass numbers like what's happened over the last 4.5 years. I mean, think about it. Okay, how many of you think of those illegals got Social Security numbers?
none.
You sure?
Yeah, they have too.
You sure?
Yeah, if
Okay,
they do, they
okay.
probably bought them on the dark web.
Let me give it to you. I got the statistics. Look, see if I'm right. Doge discovered that Joe Biden gave 6 million illegal immigrants Social Security numbers, signed millions up illegally for welfare, and some even voted. Non-citizens, non-citizen Social Security numbers. In 2021, 270,425 people got Social Security numbers. 2022, 590,193. 2023,
How many?
964,160.
Okay, how many million? Did you say million?
Yeah, 6 million. Okay. In 2024, 2,095,242 in 2024. In 2025, he was only there from January 1 until January the 20th. 900,649 illegal aliens got access to Social Security numbers.
Musk claims millions of non-citizens receive Social Security numbers. Mind blowing.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you another one. See if this is true. Doge discovered that the immigration department gave work order authorization to illegal aliens just 5 months after filing for asylum. Did you hear that, Mike? I come to the United
Immigration
States.
Department gave
The Doge discovered the immigration department gave work order authorization to illegal aliens 5 months after filing for asylum. You know how long it takes to become a citizen? It takes years. These people got work order authorization 5 months after filing for asylum. You know what this means? This means illegal aliens could work knowing it could take years before their case was ever going to be heard. That's called fraud, Mike. That's fraud. You think those people weren't given government funds? Yes. You think those people weren't given Social Security cards? Yes. You think those people weren't given the right to vote in elections?
Well, yeah, they were.
So here's one thing: it says found 1.3 million aliens who were already receiving Medicaid. They also found among the millions a subset who were registered to vote and some who did vote. And
So when Trump said in the 2020 election and 2024 election that illegals were voting, everybody looked at him and said he was crazy. Doge has found that, but yet we would hate to know the truth. You know why? Because the truth hurts, Mike.
You want to know why your grocery prices and you can't afford to buy a home? Deportations. You want to know who says that? Let's go over to Larry's favorite person in the world and let her be the one to tell you, Miss Crockett.
Realm. So I am telling you that this is a failed thing, but we've got to do better to connect the dots and let people know the reason you can't afford a home is because of these failed immigration policies. The reason you're not going to be able to afford your food is because of these failed immigration policies. And the same can go for the hospitality industries where we have so many.
So,
Why do you think? Let's just be serious. Okay, let's be serious. Why do you think all these Democrats are coming out? And I'm not attacking the Democratic Party. I don't want anybody to think that. But why do you think these politicians in the Democratic Party want all these mass illegals here? Why do they want them here?
It's their voting base.
Okay, here's the problem with the United States. Every 10 years, the United States conducts a census. They send out literature, you fill it out to try to get a statistical account of who lives, how many people live in a resident. The population of an area determines representation in the House of Representatives. If you have, and illegals are counted in that census, Mike. Illegals are counted in that. What can it do to a state like, let's say, Kentucky, if you have, let's say, 3 million illegals come into Louisville? What's it do?
It'll determine your governor's race for sure.
Plus, it will also determine your representation in Washington, which means policies can be overturned, changed to favor one party over another. That's why they want it. That's why they're condemning all this, these mass deportations. They don't want these people because the census is coming up in 2030. And when it's coming up, they're probably going to start sending the literature out in probably 2029, trying to get people to send it back. If they can't get it back, they're going to have to hire people to go door to door, get a statistical count. That's what this is all about, folks. It's about changing policies to basically normalize things that are not normal. That's what it's about. See you, pal. And I hate to be mean
Here
when
you
I
go,
say
Larry.
that, but it's the truth.
Tim Walz is considering running for president of the United States in the next election. So there's your next president, Larry, Tim Walz, who couldn't even make it as a vice president. I like this one. It says illegal aliens are now self-deporting, and liberals have learned climate change is a hoax. Well, I mean, they're out here burning electric vehicles and destroying them, and that's about as smart as you can get. I like that.
Well, they condemn people for going on about these policies and saying that the law is the law. You know, give you another one. I don't know if you're aware of this. The House of Representatives passed House of Representatives Bill, or HR 1526. This is an important bill, folks. It restricts district road court judges from issuing nationwide injunctions against a presidential candidate. Every time Donald Trump has done something, what's happened?
Every time he breathes,
A judge has intervened. Well, if this passes the Senate,
well, the good thing about it, since the last time we were on,
Supreme
the
Court,
Supreme Court, which I'm going to have to look into the camera. If I'm not mistaken, the last time we were on the air, a certain individual sitting here saying, I guarantee you that the Supreme Court will step in and overturn this. You did say that.
Good job, Matthew. You're
The
right.
Supreme, not one, but two that I know of, that the Supreme Court has stepped in and changed. One of them was the deportation. They stepped in and overturned that, and then had, open it up where he could start deporting people. And then there was another one that the Supreme Court had overruled.
I don't think what it is.
I don't see if I've got it here yet. While we're talking about deportation, Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs says she will not allow Tom Homan to conduct mass deportations in Arizona.
I bet you she will. Let's just go ahead. I bet you she will.
I'd like to see.
I bet you
I'd
she
like
will.
to see what she's going to
The
do.
federal
there.
government has more power than the state government. It's called delegated versus reserved power. Certain things are reserved to the states. That is not one of those entities. That is under the presidential department. Tom Homan and the Department of Homeland Security, if authorized by the president, has the full authority to mass deport illegal aliens because they do not have legal authorization to be inside the United States. She will, or they will not get any funding at all.
No federal.
He's already.
I'd cut it off.
No federal.
Well, they already did that to the governor of Maine because she said that she would not stop males from participating in female sports. And he looked right at her and said, you're not going to get no funding. And she continued to allow it to happen. And they shut it off. No funding. You're done. Pay
Should
for it
be that
yourself.
way.
Let your citizens pay for it. And I'll guarantee you she won't be very popular when more money is coming out of their pockets having to pay for stuff that they don't deem correct or right.
That's right.
This actually, I had it broke down last week as a link, but it changed. It had death row inmate to be executed despite lawyers saying he's too obese. for the lethal injection. But when I clicked on the link today to bring it up, they actually
I saw this week
they
too.
went ahead
Idaho.
they went ahead and got him earlier in the week in Florida.
Idaho became the first state in the United States to officially give the death penalty to people that commit hideous crimes of sexual nature against
Should be
12 years
every
older
state in
or
the United
younger.
States should have that.
Anybody that commits a crime against a 12-year-old child or younger will be put to death.
I
I
think they should.
told you that was
No,
coming.
and not put to death in 30 years.
No,
They need to be put to death in 30 minutes. You know, just if you do something like that, you should be done away with. Student hit with a murder charge after police say that he fatally stabbed a 16-year-old at a Texas track meet. 16-year-old student who was fatally stabbed by another student during an altercation at a high school track meet in Dallas. The suspect is known as 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, not the basketball player, who was taken into custody and charged with murder. Anthony was also previously suspended from school for bringing a knife to the school and telling his friend that in the prior days that he wanted to stab someone.
Oh, that's nice.
And there has been an uproar since this, that people saying that it was self-defense, this and that, to the point to where they even started a GoFundMe page. Now, I don't know how, or I don't know, well, that says give, send, go. I don't know anything much about that, but it says the Anthony family put it. And at the last time I checked it, it says they had the goal was 300,000 and they had raised 221,000. Now, I don't know if that's to get him out of jail or, what exactly that is, but I did see something where the Supreme Court says where he's under the age of 18, they're not going to be able to put him away for life and he can't face the death penalty because he's not an adult. So I don't know. I don't really understand that, but that's just one of the stories going around. And of course, everybody probably saw the big story from yesterday. The helicopter in New York City collapsing into the Hudson River. It's actually kind of wild. I mean, it broke in half. I mean, there's pieces of it flew off, and it went into the Hudson upside down when it fell. And it killed, I think, 6 people, the pilot plus a family of 5. That was a sad time. Matthew's favorite person is reportedly requesting the U.S. provide 10 more Patriot air defense systems. That would be Zelensky. And he also come out and told the Trump administration that the U.S. and Ukraine are equals and there won't be no more talks between the two until Trump treats him as an equal.
I bet you that goes over.
Well,
Yeah,
I can tell you how we treat him equal.
Kick his ass out again.
We take our $300 billion that we give him back and let him defend himself. I guarantee you he wouldn't be so tough then.
No, he wouldn't be no time.
He's not very tough right now.
He ain't very tough right now since he got kicked out of the White House or the Oval Office. But I mean, he was very quick to come back on that. You and Larry were talking about elections a minute ago. Here's what the election's going to look like in 2028 when Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris. This is what they're predicting. Florida is going to be the only red state. It'll be a 200 and it'll be a 508. And I'm like, Kentucky's been red for as long as I can remember. So I mean, that's the most idiotic thing that anybody could see. I meant to show this earlier, but forgot to. So I wanted to share this. My mom put on a post of Tom Ackerman, WLEX 18. No matter how you feel about that, he had actually shared a video last week in Franklin County from Lee Searcy, who had posted the video of the house floating down the river in Franklin County. And my mom put, thoughts and prayers, we can't catch a break in Kentucky this year. And whoever this moron is put, yes, praise God for hurting and killing these maggot Nazi Republicans in Jesus' name, amen.
Wow.
That just shows you what kind of hatred and stuff is out there. People's homes are floating down the river, and that's the post. That's the reply that guy gives. It's just unreal. It's unreal to know where we're at right now. Heck, clicked on the wrong button. I mean, this kind of fits it all. Why do liberals fight to keep these and fight to kill these? That's about as accurate as you can get. I don't know. It's just scary, scary times in America. Well, I mean, not just in America. I mean, locally as well. I mean, it's Larry got out of here before I was able to share this story, but we'll get in here shortly. All right, I'll just pull it up here. I mean, you can probably tell which one, on this. Does it say? Doesn't say what year it is or what school it is, but can you tell which one of them is not a female? I mean, it's probably not hard to figure out. And the female athlete in the fencing team actually decided that she would withdraw from taking a chance at the championship because she would have to go up against the guy. And, that's sad. I honestly thought that was something that was in one of them executive orders that Trump would put out there that the men and women sports, couldn't happen. But I think that's one that a judge might have blocked right now.
They did block him, right?
That's good. Yeah, that one I think is one of the current blocked ones, which is sad. I mean, you've got these kids that work their butts off for years and years to get to these points. And, you guys were talking about the
I thought Donald Trump signed an
He
executive
did,
order.
but I think it's one of the ones that's currently blocked right now. I think it's one of the
Well,
ones
due
that a
time-
judge has
due
blocked.
time,
But I
maybe
mean,
a
just like
judge
you
will-
said a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court will step in and do the right thing, and I think that's one that's going to come down the line. A lot of people said you were crazy for what was that called? Roe versus Wade. When you brought that up years ago, that would be overturned. You were crazy then, and nothing like that ever going to happen, and then it happened. And so,
And I said, I told you so. That
actually, another plane crash today.
in Boca Raton, Florida.
Boca Raton, Florida today.
Saw that today earlier.
That is the 153rd aviation disaster in the last 3 months. Now, the worst part about all that is every time something like this happens, like the accident yesterday in Florida, in New York City, instantly started becoming Trump's fault. Trump is the reason behind it, and I'm like, dude, 6 people just died, and you're going to blame it on a political thing. I mean, that's crazy to think. It's I don't know. It's weird where we're at right now. What in the hell was that?
It's just keep on going.
Let me pull that up here, guys. This is probably the person that's actually sending me stuff on my page every day. That's probably the guy right there that I'm having to deal with on here every week. What else you got over there, man?
I hit a lot of stuff that I wrote down. Just, the big things this week, in my opinion, were the fact that DOJ continues to dive into agencies. And as they dig into these agencies, they're finding more and more and more corruption. I talked 2 weeks ago about the United States Institutes of Peace, which is a non-governmental organization that was spending frivolous amounts of money and is comparable to the USAID, excuse me, the Agency of International Development. DOJ discovered that the U.S. Institute of Peace, and if you'll fact check this, excuse me, got to sneeze.
You're allergic to us now.
The Doge found that the U.S. Institutes of Peace was funding multiple terrorist organizations with taxpayers' dollars. How are
U.S. what?
U.S. Institutes of Peace? Gosh. A couple weeks ago, I told you that Doge went to the United States Institutes of Peace headquarters in Washington, D.C., and a private entity of police officers forbid them from entering the premises. Well, the question is, what did they do in the 24 hours that Doge had to get authorization to get into their building? Well, I can tell you what they did. They paid an outside accountant, $2.2 million of taxpayers' dollars to destroy.
Says they
And
caused Institute of Peace to wipe terabyte of financial data.
there you go. This accountant was paid $2.2 million to delete an entire terabyte of data that linked them to payments to not only the Taliban leaders, not only Iraqi leaders, but also Al Qaeda leaders. So, what I'm going to tell you is we had a U.S. NGO here in the United States that's funding terrorist organizations using our dollars to kill who, Mike?
Americans.
Americans.
Well, I was
Those
going to
found-
say, ain't nothing surprising.
But hold up. But if you mention that, Elon is a bad guy.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's right there for you to find. Doge recovered 99.9 terabytes of the data. And they also found that the U.S. Institutes of Peace had a slush fund that they were using for private events and private air travel. Instead of allowing these people to fly like third class, second class, they're in first class on a jetliner. They're flying on a private plane. $675,000 of U.S. taxpayers' money was spent, in addition to the $2.2 million they gave to the accountant to destroy the terabyte of data. They're spending your money, folks, to hide things. They have done things, and they know are illegal. And why would you fund terrorist organizations? Because war is big business.
Well, starting in May, which I mean, we were told this last year or year before. Last year. Starting in May, you have to have in the state of Kentucky, or I guess maybe everywhere, what's called a real ID. It's got like the little star on it or whatever, like your driver's license. If you want to fly in the United States, so that's the question that I have is. Which I don't fly, but I mean, we're going to be required to have the real ID if we wanted to fly somewhere in the United States. Are the people that you're talking about doing all this illegal stuff, are they going to have the same thing, or they even have to have an ID at all? If it's illegal, they probably ain't going to have anything at all.
You brought up a good point. You talked about an ID. We have a Kentucky state legislator that's introduced a bill that will institute 120 agencies in every county to allow you to go renew your driver's license. They had cut it down to 33 agencies. Right now, the problem with going and getting a driver's license or getting a driver's license renewal or an ID is you have to go out of county right now. We as Morgan County citizens have to drive to Morehill.
Jackson.
Plus you got
people to shop in Morehead.
That's right. It's called tourism. So what it does is it creates tourist attractions for those local areas instead of having to do it here at home. Plus you got to get an appointment. It's an all-day event, and it takes away from everything. And I'm telling you, I think this lady.
Did they turn it down?
If I was a Kentucky citizen, in my opinion, every Kentucky citizen ought to be calling their representation.
Yeah, that's actually kind of bullshit.
Support this.
What was her name?
Savannah
Maddox. She actually brought the bill up in in February that would require that all county clerks would start issuing licenses again, which is what we always had until recently. And of course, when it came down time to vote and bring in all the new laws and everything, it didn't even It didn't even get enough votes to even move on to the next step. It didn't even
But I
get a
think
move
she's
to the
on to
next.
something between
But I
me and
reckon
you.
I saw that she shared it the other day and says, she thinks this is still something that she's going to continue to push, and even next year when it comes back up for the legislators, she's going to have that bill again, right back there again. So between now and then, I think we need to talk to our state reps and our legislators and say, hey, this is a major issue, especially for people in Eastern Kentucky. It may not be a big deal in Lexington if you've got 5 or 6, those regional offices around there. But when we have to drive to Moorhead or Jackson or somewhere like that to get this done, I mean,
I
it's
think
crazy.
if you lived in McGoffin, I think you have to go to Prestonsburg.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's wild.
So it puts you out of pocket, is what it does.
School attendance is important. They make a big ordeal about it. But if you take your kid to go get a permit test now, it's almost they have to miss
Almost the whole day. You're going to
If
miss
they have to
almost
get
the whole
driver's
day.
test,
Well,
they
the
have to
driver's
miss the
test
whole
is
day.
administered at
You
what
done
time?
with these?
Yeah, what time is it administered?
I don't remember.
I wouldn't
but
think
I know
it would
it's
be
it's
probably
all day.
around 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
You're going to have. You
With
just went to the
Moorhead, you're probably going
courthouse.
to have 4 or 5 counties there at one time.
Yeah.
I think Montgomery County and, of course, Rowan, Morgan.
I'm going to tell you this past
I don't know.
summer.
And you can go on, at one time, you can go online and renew that, but you don't get the real ID.
It's real ID.
And you have to keep the same picture.
Yeah.
Aiden was going for his permit test.
Luckily, he went in the summer last year.
And I needed to renew my license. And we were at the campground. So we drive over there. How long did I drive, Michael? I was
Oh,
up there
my
driving
goodness.
for an hour looking for a parking spot.
Oh, my
They wouldn't
goodness.
even
Yeah,
do
we
it.
went in the
I
building.
couldn't even renew my
And,
license.
I mean, there was a line already there, and people everywhere.
That's what I'm saying. You might as well get you.
I know we were there a few hours.
So
I know we were there a few
drove
hours.
around.
And it didn't take him that long to take the written permit test. I mean, he probably wasn't in there 5 minutes, if that. I mean, but then he had to stand in line to
There
go
was
up and
no-
say, I'm here. Then he had to wait forever to be called in to test. Then he went in and tested. Then they give you this little piece of paper. You go through, have to stand in line again for them to say, all right, you got it. And then they'll tell you to go over here and get your picture made. So,
Well, what
I mean,
I'm talking about is I could not park and go in and renew my license. I had to drive around the parking lot until they were done.
yeah, she
because
was
there
driving
no
around the
parking
lot. I
spots.
mean, there was nowhere to park. I mean, that's not a big area there
There's
at
not enough
Moorhead
parking.
anyway.
It's very congested.
You know, I think they probably did that because of COVID. But
I'm
know,
sure.
Well,
we're-
they done a
we're-
lot of stupid stuff during
we're
COVID, and that's one
we're
of
far
them.
removed from COVID.
And that's
You
one
know,
of them. But,
and that should be probably reinstituted back in every local county.
well, I know
That's why
next
they
year.
implemented the
I
bill.
know next year in about March, February or March next year, when our state reps and legislators start coming in, and they start making bills and stuff like that, I'm going to be on the phones and emails, driving to Frankfort, whatever a person's got to do to try to, because that's a major one. That's a major thing that needs to be switched. And for them to look at it this year and not even consider it, I mean, it didn't even make it to where they could say, hey, we could get a second vote on it. It didn't even make it to the next step. I would think anybody would be like, hell, that's just common sense.
Well, I just figured once COVID kind of died down, they would
It should
what?
Go back to normal.
Go back to normal. We're back to normalcy. So why has that not been reinstituted in local communities?
Why are people still working from home?
Well, that was another thing. If you were talking earlier about Trump signing things on day one, that was a big one too. He said that all federal workers that were working at home would
Need to return to work.
why are you going back? I mean, why are you still at home 5 years after the pandemic? I get maybe 2020 and 21 maybe were the 2 major years of it, but this 2025. COVID was it was lifted and done for late 22, 23, somewhere through there when they come out and lifted everything. That's what I'm saying. So why are people still home? What's the issue?
I don't know the answer to it. But you would have thought that by now we would have returned to some sense of normalcy, and that office would have been reinstituted in this area. I mean, it was handled at if I'm not mistaken, the city court clerk.
Yeah.
City
In
court
the
clerk,
courthouse.
In the courthouse.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes it easier and more
You also
manageable.
left with your license. They didn't melt.
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
melting.
Now it just you don't get your permit or your license either
You
one.
get a temporary.
You get a piece of paper and your old one's even crushed up or
Yeah,
whatever.
you get a paper.
You know, like a
I thought
30
you were
day, and then
told
they'll
to
make.
never mail your ID or anything.
Yeah,
to
when
the
you
mail.
walked out of the building over here, you had a license in hand. But here is a absolute wonderful question talking about real ID. Will you be required to have a real ID to get a CCDW?
There's been no mention because that's a state level thing. I
You
think.
can take that home with you if you want. You add that to your collection.
Well, is that a carry concealed?
Yes.
I've not heard anything about it either, but you know, there's your instructor sitting there, so that's why I thought she would hear something maybe.
There's been no mention of that.
Ain't nothing surprises me though. If they think they can make it harder on people, they probably will. What else you got over there, man?
I pretty well went through all the things that I had on here. We've hit a lot of this, there's a lot of information coming out. Trump makes a lot of mention about the 2020 election. There's a lot of information that the certain data processing centers have that election results, and that if it was shown, then it would create a civil war here in America. To let people know that there possibly may have been some election collusion and interference. And I don't know if you saw this or not. There's a lot of information out there right now about the Russian collusion, that they did an internal investigation into that and found that maybe no police officers or individuals colluded, but that doesn't mean that there weren't others that were involved. They just looked at certain entities to decide whether they were involved in it. They lied on Trump. They tried to make him look bad. They made up fictitious lies on the man with the Russian collusion, that he colluded with Vladimir Putin to steal the 2016 election, which is anything but. And what I'm going to tell you is, when the truth comes out, and the truth will come out, it's a matter of time. And what's happening right now is it's kind of like a water faucet. Drip, drip, drip. We get little bits of information. Eventually, you're going to get a lot of information. You're going to get a flood. And when you do, you could be shocked by some of the developments that transpire. Just put it that way.
I've always liked this little video here, so I'm going to share it. It's about this kid with his little Tonka truck, and he runs up to the construction workers, which, we encourage you not to let your kids do because it's really not safe. But what this construction worker does next is, it'll just warm your heart. So take a look at this. Mother runs over and like, no. But then watch here. So, that's awesome. Hell of support for whoever was running, that piece of equipment, to dump that dirt in that little kid's Tonka truck. I mean, that made that kid's day. We need more people like that, in the world, out here supporting these.
Well,
kids.
we have the ability to impact a lot of people's lives, Mike. Each of us as individuals. Whether we choose to do that or not is upon us. You can make somebody's day. You don't know what people are going through. We've had a lot of mental health crisis issues since COVID, especially among kids, because the one thing that kids need in order to have a sense of balance in their life is socialization. And for almost a year and a half, most kids at the high school level, the only person they got to see was their parents, if they saw them, if they weren't working, or a Chromebook pretty much from inside their home. We're still having to deal with the fallout of that, where kids still have not totally adjusted. A lot of people have social issues where they just don't like being around a lot of people. And I think it's something we're going to deal with for a long time until we truly can escape all this stuff. There's talk of a bird flu.
Yeah, that's why I read today. That's the reason the eggs are going up, and I'm like,
You know, and
It's one thing
there's
after
talk
another.
about the potential
Measles
for
outbreak.
the next pandemic to be even worse than this one. Let's just hope and pray we don't have another pandemic.
Well, they have to have something to take Donald Trump down. And that's what they tried to do with the last one, and I believe that's where we'll be again. So that's the Middle School Site-Based Decision-Making Council. Members' election is getting ready to take place. Know anything about it?
Well, I know this every year. Site-based council, site-based council members.
You'll get it right in a minute.
Are voted on. I think your most important elections, and I say this, and people will look at me and say, you're absolutely crazy. Your most important elections are your school board and your school site-based decision-making councils.
Well,
Why?
yeah, because your school board employs the superintendent and works with the policies and
they
everything
decide
like that.
what
And
type
then
of,
your site-based decision-making council hires your inner staff.
and they're going to decide the
So
policies that guide the instruction and the environment that your child goes to school in. Within the school itself, you have people making decisions for that school. I would encourage people to go out, volunteer. I don't know if you get paid to be a site-based member. You probably get paid a small amount to be a school board member. It's not probably anything going to get you rich.
well,
It's
I've
more-
got a home in the Bahamas, if you really want to know. And I got a private jet sitting in Lexington at the airport. I'll take you and show you.
It's probably because you sold out.
Yeah. Well,
That's
yeah.
exactly right.
Sold
And I
out.
also
man.
got some property,
I mean-
oceanfront property.
Brent Brock did call you out.
I just messing with you.
I got some oceanfront property in Arizona too.
Matthew.
But
those a lot of times a lot of these issues come before you that you don't even recognize are being emphasized in schools. Okay, give you a good one. Several years ago, and even still, a lot of schools in certain areas are big on what's called critical race theory.
Mhm.
They believe that the single most
I wasn't
important
on the board then,
determinant,
yeah.
single most important determinant of success is your race.
No, it's
Anything far from the
not.
truth.
No, it's not.
Your willpower, your determination, your grit. You can be anything you want to be in this world.
No matter your color.
Yeah, no matter
No
your
matter what you
ethnicity.
are.
It
I
all
hear
depends
people
on.
say the Chinese are the smartest people, like the tech savvy people. And they might be, but that doesn't mean that a Chinese student is different than a black
Well,
student.
you're
Or a Chinese
stereotyping.
student is better than a white or a Mexican, anything like that. I mean, it's you can put all those students together and they can all be just as smart as the next one. They could all go to Harvards and Yales and all those big schools, and never be no better than the last person.
But those elections have an impact on your child, your family, on a direct daily basis. Therefore, I would encourage you to get involved in local school activities, play a part in your child's life, try to drive the policies that you think are right and do right by all kids, not just your own. What best serves those kids?
Yeah, and like I said, Travis, I don't know,
You know,
who some of the people are that may be, up for those positions. I don't, I don't know that. I've never been on the
I
site
think
base.
anybody can run. It's just the day that they have the elections, you're going to have some people that are going to encourage others to come out and vote for them. So, if you want to be a member of that organization and get elected,
And
you
that
might
is a
wanna-
big one.
you might want to take a contingency of people in there with you just to say, hey, these people are going, and they get to cast a vote, and they vote for you, and you get elected. There's two parent representatives. However, let me say this. When a site-based decision-making council is put together, you've got 3 teacher representatives, the principal, and 2 parents. You would hope that as a committee that they would collaborate, cooperatively come together as a consensus and make the best decision for kids. That don't always happen. What happens is sometimes the principal has the ability to go against the recommendation of the council. And I'm not talking about any.
Yeah, you're
specific
not.
group.
You're right,
I'm
you're
just
not.
telling you the facts.
That's just how it works, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, that's a big part of the school system because, they hire You know, I said a minute
Well,
ago,
every
like
year,
the inner people, but I know, like, you know, when I worked there as a custodian years ago, you know, I had to go in front of the site base. So, I mean, you know, when you interview, you go in front of them, you know, when you want to become a member, you
well,
know,
if
of a
teachers do the
staff
same
member.
thing. You know, if you're hiring a principal, they might have a hiring committee, might have a district central office personnel that oversees that committee because you don't have a principal in place
Right,
to
to
make
sit
that.
there,
Yeah,
right.
you got to have somebody to kind of conduct the interviews and the meetings and set it all up and go from there. But you know, I look at this and I say we've got away from our school boards and our local school entities being powerful. We as people just assume these people have the best interests at heart. Well, you know, why do you think Donald Trump has fought adamantly to destroy the Department of Education? And I know people are saying that's the craziest thing you could have ever heard of. This is not a new initiative. Ronald Reagan talked about destroying the Department of Education back in the 80s. Why? Because you have too many chiefs and not enough Indians. You know, I'm going to tell you, I've been dealing with a similar problem. And give you an example. Uh, and I won't go too deep into it, but I'll hit on it. My mother passed away, and you know I'm trying to be responsible enough to do the right thing,
You're getting run all over the place.
and I'm getting a runaround because one organization tells me I need to talk to these people, that organization tells me I need to talk to the previous people, and you can't get anything done.
You can't get nothing out of either one of them.
So you know when you sit on the phone for 5 hours waiting on these people, and then when they do come on, they can't do anything for you. So finally,
Crazy.
after doing all this, I just finally looked at them and I said, the person I was talking to, I said, all I want to know is what's the next step. Just tell me the next step. Help me out here. You know, I'm trying to be responsible and do the right thing, and I can't get anybody to give me information that can help me do that.
Right.
But what you're finding is you have a lot of bureaucracy. You have a lot of people, Mike, that have been employed in a lot of big, high-paying salary positions that are useless. You know, you're talking about
that's
the
a fact.
Department of Education employs about 4,000 plus employees. Every one of them make $145,000 a year,
And you don't even know
and they
what they're
don't
doing.
educate a single kid.
Yeah, they don't even see a kid unless it's probably their own kid.
Yeah, they're
But, I mean,
consultants. They are taking ideas from consultants and deciding whether or not that should be implemented into curriculums around various schools. And what they've done is they've took an educational system that was ranked number one in 1980, and now it's ranked
what was it?
31.
30s, yeah.
31. So
Something wrong
we've went from up here
from being the top
to
tier
down
to
here.
nothing, right.
South Korea ranks number one in the world, if my statistics are right, as far as educational
That's correct.
Is
retain.
that right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'll write
So-
that down. I'll have that one for the next
So,
program.
so
but-
what you've got is you've got an institution that set us back. But how much money do you think we've spent on that institution since it was instituted in '79 by Jimmy Carter? Billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, taxpayers' dollars, with not the right purpose, not the right objective, the initiative. So if it doesn't work, you have to, from a critical analysis standpoint, look at it and say it needs to be fixed. And the one way you fix it is you either continue doing it and put a Band-Aid on it and correct it, or you just eliminate it and turn it over to states and let states take the initiative of deciding what policies, instructional wise, that their kids learn through curriculum.
Can't think of anything else right now.
But you know, and we need more people to serve on these
But
committees.
Travis said he was privileged to serve at Morgan Central for 2 years with their site base, and you know that's awesome. You know,
We need
that's
more
amazing.
people to serve.
Absolutely.
What happens is oftentimes when these elections take place, there's only one or two people show up, so they're automatically what?
Automatically put in.
They're automatically elected. You know, because at least they have the insight to want to make changes and have a say so in their child's education. But we need more people to get involved. The educational system across the entire country needs to be looked at. I said this 20 years ago, and I'll stand by it. And you're starting to see more of it. The educational system in America needs to be more like Europe, where it's not driven by teaching everybody the same thing. We're not creating robots. We create career clusters, and those kids take those career clusters. They get the basics: math, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and things of that nature. But they go into their field, and they can graduate at a certain age, 16, 17, go into the working world and become productive members of society. Now, if they want to go on to college, they can do that as well. There's a program and a cluster that will allow you to do that, and we're seeing more of that. Trade schools are becoming more prevalent and going to be taking the initiative for colleges around the country. I think it's kind of like the NBA, kind of like the NCAA. You know, I saw something today. It was talking about NIL money has absolutely destroyed college.
Well, I mean, I
athletics.
actually had it here, and I thought, well, I'll remember it before Larry left. The quarterback for the University of Tennessee football team didn't show up for the first spring practice today because he wants more NIL money before he shows up to practice. These are college students. Now,
Well, they're semi-pro. They're
you
not
know,
college. It's
at this
semi-pro.
point,
They're getting paid.
yeah, they're getting paid to play college ball.
Okay,
When
I
I went
asked
to
this
college,
question.
I had to go in debt to go to college, and now they're getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars,
Okay.
or millions of dollars, or hundreds of thousands. Of
I
dollars.
asked this very question, and if somebody can ask this, it would make it easier. Okay, when a kid signs in the portal to go from one school to another, and do they leave immediately or wait till the semester's over?
See, now I wondered that the other day. Like, Kentucky's season ended about a week or so ago.
Well, you had a kid from Alabama,
and just as soon as these programs season ends, you automatically
have access to the portal.
we're gonna join the portal. And yeah, I mean, around here, like Morehead State, I know, and UK, you would think their semesters doesn't end to the middle of May. So it's like, do they stay? Yeah, I had that same wonder the other day. Do they stay in school?
The person I was speaking with said that okay, we were talking about the gentleman from the athlete from Alabama
that's transferring to Kentucky.
Yeah, okay, they said that he was already at the University of Kentucky and getting access to services. And
so he would have been on the Alabama team a little over a week ago, and he's already at Kentucky.
But my question is, how does he get grades for that semester? And then he looked at me, he said, well, he probably ain't doing a lot of the work anyway. And I'm sitting there going, he has to be academically eligible
That's probably
to what?
true, but I know they've got tutors and everything for those type of teams. But
or, maybe it was online programs where he could do it online. I don't know. Like I said, that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
But the NIL has ruined college athletics because these guys and gals are getting paid a lot of money.
Well, man, just like that quarterback. He didn't show up for spring practice today because he's demanding Tennessee give him more money on his NIL deal. And, it actually stated contract. I said, that's crazy to hear the word contract in college sports. But he's going to sit and complain until they give him more money, or he'll transfer and go somewhere that will.
Now imagine this, Mike. This is what college athletics has done. Imagine, Paul Smith, you boys miss I miss Joe Biden, man. I miss that boy.
He does.
The idea that
see, he even wants me to keep the video on there, Paul.
But you think about this. Think about this for a second. Okay, you talk about NIL money. They're getting millions and millions and millions of dollars. Think about a high school kid that's trying to aspire to play college athletics. It's about 1% of high school seniors play college athletics. 1%. Okay. Now, what you're going to see is more high school students go to the junior college. They're going to go to the junior college.
Get a year under their belt or 2 years under their belt.
But they don't lose any eligibility.
Right.
You saw that? They don't lose a bit of eligibility.
They go there, become the best leading scorer in that division.
And then they can get a scholarship somewhere, and then they've enhanced their NIL money.
Which I know it wasn't a Division II school, but I mean, look at this Broome kid that went to Morehead State. You know, nobody wanted that kid. Nobody
Consensus-
would recruit him.
Could have very well. Is he a consensus player of the year?
You know, he went to Morehead State, played 2 seasons, and then he played the last 2 at Auburn, and could very well be the player of the year. I mean,
What I have seen though is this. I don't know. If
I mean,
people-
I know that wasn't a junior college, but
what I have seen, Mike, is that they are now talking about restructuring the NILs. That if you are the coach at Morehead State and your organization has a kid, and that kid goes on to bigger, greener pastures like Auburn with the Broom kid, Auburn has to pay Morehead. And you know what that does?
that would
allows-
bring more money to Morehead.
because
You know,
those smaller schools are having a hard
but
time.
you know,
generating-
Morehead ain't getting a whole lot of
No,
NIL.
no.
stuff,
There's a
you know what
lot
I
of
mean?
schools that don't even contemplate NIL.
I don't
because
know
they
if
can't
Larry's
generate
watching
the
or not. I
funds.
figured he would be saying something by now, but because he talks
Well,
about NIL every week.
Okay.
But
I heard the comment was made, and like I was talking to the one of the gentlemen we were talking about all this. He said that the comment was that somebody had went to somebody at Morehead, and I don't know if this is factual or not. I'm just repeating secondhand information that they had told some people at Morehead that they could generate $75,000 for the Broom kid to stay. And then they found out that he got $4.4 million
well, yeah,
to go to Auburn.
right.
You know, $75,000 is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money for around
But-
here. But I mean, $4 million to go to Auburn, and you know, in 2 years, and he stayed. You know, he stayed that extra year. But you know, that's another thing. That's one of the things that really bothers me with the NIL. You know, let's say you're the point guard. You're a point guard coming out of high school, and I'm a forward or center, and we're both leading state scorers, whatever. But you go, let's say you go to Louisville. You go to Louisville, and you get the $4 million, and I go to Kentucky and only get 1. But we both feel like, or let's say we could both go to Louisville. We both go to Louisville. Played at different high schools. We both go to Louisville, but you get $4 million, I only get 1. You know, that's where, you know, me and Larry talk about it with it all the time. It's like, you know, how do they determine which players get less and which players get more, especially if you've never seen these players before?
So eventually it's going to filter down into high school.
Well, it's coming.
And when it does,
I would imagine it's already in some of your private prep schools.
and when it
and stuff
does,
already,
it's going to be an absolute disaster.
It's going to be awful. It will ruin
Because
basketball.
kids will just say, hey,
Well, it already
which
is
they
on.
are right now anyway. It's hard to keep kids to be loyal to communities. Used to, you took a lot of pride in playing for your local high school team. That was your dream,
Well, I mean,
your
let's
aspiration.
use that.
Now, you know, you can invest time and effort in a kid, and they'll just up and drop
Oh, yeah.
you like a bad
Well, I
habit,
mean, just
transfer
think
out,
about it. If
not
that-
even give you a phone call,
Yeah.
a text
if,
message,
if,
nothing.
if that
I'm
NIL,
down.
if that NIL money gets into the high school level, I mean, imagine you got a local kid that's averaging 20, 25 points a game for you, and next thing you know, he could go to one of the bigger city schools, and they'll pay. You know, he might be getting $500 to play at your school. They may give him $5,000 to play at a city school or something. You know, of course they're going to leave. They're going to just like you said.
Well, what
they're
would
gonna be
solve
gone.
all this? What would solve all this is for the NBA, in my opinion, to eliminate some of their restrictions and say 16, 17-year-old players that want to enter the NBA draft are eligible.
Just come on,
Just come on.
like they used to be. You could just come on, right?
So what it's done, you know, it would probably put some prestige back in the college game because right now you look at the Final Four, you had 4 number 1 seeds, but how many times is that going to happen from now on with the portal? They don't.
Next
they
year
don't
it could be a number.
rebuild.
It could be a number 12 seed
They
next
don't
year.
rebuild. They just reload.
Yeah.
Because they're going and
Well,
getting
that's
the
like I
pieces.
think Melina mentioned a minute ago. What are your thoughts on Louisville and Kentucky? I think Louisville has the number 1 right now for transfer portals. Louisville has the number 1 team next year, and Kentucky's got the number 3. And this is only less than 2 weeks after their seasons are over. You know, so and that's just the rating of the transfers coming
Okay,
in. That's
and
not
I
like
saw
their
where-
recruits. That's
And
just
Kentucky
transfer.
lost a kid this week.
Yeah, they had
Katie and Lewis.
yeah.
One of the top prospects in America, but they came out with a projected lineup, and guess what?
He wasn't in it.
And
So where do you think he'll go? Somewhere where he'll play. That's what he wants to do. You know, and a lot of these kids believe that. They believe, you know, hey, I'm worth this much extra money, but if I'm going to make this money, I need to play. And I'm looking at a roster like Kentucky's that's got some big kids coming in. They're already, you know, young recruits. Then you've got all these transfers coming, and I'm gonna be a seventh or eighth man on the
Give you
bench.
another example. I saw something this week with Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino's best player during the NCAA tournament when they got defeated by Arkansas went 3 for 17 from the field. It wasn't that he wanted to go 3 for 17. He just had a
He's
poor
had a bad
performance.
game. I mean,
and
that
that
happens.
happens. And it happened.
You don't like for it to happen in a tournament
and it
time, but
happened
it
on the
happens.
biggest stage.
Right.
Okay, so what does Rick Pitino do with less than 5 minutes to go? Rick Pitino
Takes him out
took him out of the ball
and
game
don't put him back in.
and made a decision to go with the student athletes that he felt gave him the best
Now,
chance.
he
to
caught a lot of bull crap on
Okay,
it, but he never
well,
put him back in.
his player this week has entered the transfer portal. He was the Big East Player of the Year. He's entered the transfer portal. Came out this week and said he didn't disagree with Pitino not playing him in the biggest game of the year based on his performance. It's just that he could have said it in a nicer way, in a nicer tone. And I'm like, you got to be accountable for your own actions. You didn't play well.
If you're three, what
Okay,
was he, three
but
for what?
being a good teammate means you're supportive of what? The guys that are on
If
the
I'm
floor.
out there on the floor and I've only made 3 baskets the whole game and I've missed
Sit down,
10, 12, 15, put me on the
Sit
bench
down.
and put
Sit
another,
down, Clyde.
put a kid in there that might score a couple baskets down the last part
It
of
gives
the
you a
game.
chance to win.
Yeah. I mean, Arkansas was on a run there for a little bit.
But
I was tickled when they lost.
The problem
But-
with sports is we've come to the point where it's hard to keep people satisfied because enough is not enough. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, I give you 20 minutes. Well, you're not what? You're not happy with 20 minutes. You want 25. I give you 28. You're not happy with 28. You want 32. Okay, what happens with that? In addition to that, you're scoring 10 a game. I'm perfectly content and happy with that.
But you got a kid that plays 8 minutes a game that's scoring 15. You got a kid coming off the bench that's scoring 15 or 20 points a game. It's like, I mean, at that point, when it comes time to win a ball game, you have to put the kid in that can score, and that might be your better defender,
And
whatever.
the problem with that is the criticism that's going to come.
And there's going to
after
be
the-
some people that are sitting
Yeah.
behind your bench that's going to
So,
be hollering at you. But yeah, I don't know
But
how
if you're
you've
not-
done it as long as you have.
Well,
I honestly don't.
But I'm gonna look at you and tell you, Mike, if you're not paying these kids, they're getting paid to play. If they're just playing to play, they're going to put more heart, more effort into it. You're going to learn more skills: accountability, responsibility,
Oh, yeah.
perseverance, adversity. It ain't always going to go the way you want it to go, but that don't mean you jump ship. And
They're going to pay me
that's
$100.
life.
They're going to pay me $100,000 my senior year of high school, and all I got to do is shoot threes all day. That kid's not going to do it. He ain't going to try to learn. All he's going to do is sit out there and jack threes all day. Because that's what it makes it look like he's there for.
But it's
I
created.
dread to see it when it gets to the local high school level.
It's destroyed college athletics.
I can't. It's hard
And
to
it's
watch.
destroyed the mid-major programs. You're not going to see, and I'm a firm believer in this, I don't think you'll see mid-majors make the NCAA Final Four as much as we had seen prior to. Previously it was mid-major teams that had a lot of seniority, upperclassmen, juniors, and seniors.
Those
Talk
are the
about
ones that are
boys that
leaving
have
now.
grown to men. Those are the guys.
Those are the guys that are in the transfer portal. They like a couple of years ago, they had that kid that beat Kentucky from Oakland or whatever. Guys like him now would transfer and play for a team like Arizona or a team like Michigan. Somebody that's a little more top tier than Oakland. And then they got a big run.
And it's not to say Oakland's not a good program,
Right.
because Greg Campy does a good job year in, year out. It's just the accessibility and availability of those athletes, high profile athletes.
Well, I mean, Broome is an example.
Yeah.
Morehead State, ever so many years wins the OVC and goes to the tournament. But, Broome goes there and he's pretty much, dominant to the point to where he's recognized by Auburn, and Auburn pays him all this money to go there. I mean, it's kind of hard.
And you're going to jump ship.
He's going to jump ship, and then, like you said, he could possibly be the player of the year. I mean, at least he was in one of the contenders for it, I know. And the story that he told was he wasn't even being recruited out of high school by nobody. Morehead's the only team that's really looking at him.
Well, look at the kid, the Clayton kid that won the national championship
That
at
kid
Florida.
can ball, son.
He was on Iona. He was playing for Rick Pitino at Iona, and he jumped in the portal and he ends up going to Florida and he ends up staying at Florida.
Wins him a
won
national title.
championship.
Yeah.
Ends up being the MVP.
I mean,
the tournament,
he's a shooting devil too, though.
Yeah.
He's a good ball player.
But-
I'll give him that.
but it's going to change the landscape of sports, and your blue bloods, as I call them, your Power
Kentucky's and
Fives,
Nukes and
they're going to have a
Kansas.
hard time knocking those people out of the NCAA tournament when it's time to do that.
Well,
I'm
I
not saying it
mean,
can't
I
be
know
done.
Florida and Houston were number one seeds in the tournament, but they wasn't Duke, they wasn't Kansas, they wasn't Kentucky, North Carolina, so a UConn that had won it 2 years prior. They wasn't one of those programs, and that's what me and you talked about it before that game that night. I said, I'm happy with either one of them. Of course, I'm going to root for the SEC. You were rooting for Houston, obviously. But,
I was rooting for Houston.
but I mean, if Houston wins it, that's the first time in a long time for them.
Well, it's the first time ever.
Florida, when they had
Well,
Joe
I'll take that back.
Kimnola,
They
they
may have
won
won
2
it
or
back
3
when
in
they
a
had
row.
Elgin Baylor. I'm not sure. If they
When
won.
Joe Kimnola was at Florida, they won 2 or 3 in a row there. So
But landscape of sports has changed, and it's all about money, and it's changed. It, like I said, I think they're going to have to do some restructuring with all this to help mid majors and the lower level schools have a chance to compete, because if not, they'll never compete. So
well, I mean, just like Western Kentucky, a couple of years ago, they had it was Murray State. Murray State had that John Morant, and he was the number 2 draft pick in the NBA draft.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to believe. And the way things are now, a kid like that would have stayed.
he would not have been at Murray State.
No, a kid like that would have been playing at Murray State. He would have been at a big school. He'd been somewhere bigger.
Because the money would have
Because the money would have lured him. I mean, heck, he was the number 2 pick, so he's making money anyway. But yeah, there ain't going to be many of those kids at the smaller schools. EKU and then Moorhead, every time they get a really good ball player, they're not going to last long, especially if they're playing good like that. You got anything else over there?
No, like I said, I expect the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, summer to be explosive with what is revealed, information is found with all these. Doge will continue doing his job. We'll see the tariffs pay off. The economy will continue to boom. I think you're going to see more and more companies invest in the United States, billions and trillions of dollars, and American workers will have the opportunity to find good paying jobs. Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do when he ran for president, and this is what we voted for. This is what we're going to get. I know it's the criticism of some people; they just don't like it. But I'm sorry. America spoke, and Trump's made promises, and he's going to fulfill those promises.
That's right. Let's see here. I got a few announcements I'll make before we leave here. If you ain't got anything going on Sunday, and you're interested in getting your CCDW permit, license, whatever they want to call it these days, bring $75 over to Outback Guns and More there in West Liberty, Kentucky, 310 West Main at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock Sunday morning, there will be a CCDW, that is Carry Concealed Deadly Weapon. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube, but that's another place I'm streaming, but I guess we'll get kicked off another 60 days. I know she's still got a lot of availability, for that class. If anybody's interested in taking that, you can contact me through the page here, and I can get you in contact with it, or you can contact Deborah Stacy over on Facebook. Like I said, I think it's $75 to take the initial class. She'll explain all the rest of it about getting your permit and what happens and stuff once it comes in during the class. A lot of things that she gets all the time, and I hear it all the time too, is I live in Kentucky and I don't need it anymore. That's true, but it's good to have, because there's situations where you may travel outside of the state. Like I went to Florida last year, I could take my stuff with me, and they will reciprocate. Am I saying it right? Reciprocate. So that I can use my license in Florida, and if I get pulled over and they're like, why do you have this? I can say I've got, unless I'm waving it around, then obviously no. But so there's reasons to be, and then sometimes it's just good to have it. I mean, it's easier sometimes when you go to purchase your weapons and stuff like that.
Also to know the laws and protecting
Yeah,
yourself.
you know a lot of laws. I mean, sometimes we have people around here in Kentucky that just walk around with one on their side or waving it around like Clint Eastwood, and you know. Melina says she's not letting hers expire. Yes, if you are watching right now, if you are one of the people remaining, and you do have a carry conceal permit right now, do not let it expire. Do not, because it's absolute headache right now. To be able to do that, you don't have to retake the class. I mean, if anybody tells you that, it's a lie. But you don't have to. And then also, Tuesday night at 6:30 is the Morgan County School Board regular meeting for April. 6:30 at the Morgan County Board of Education. Come out. I mean, you don't even have to say a word. If you want to hear what's going on inside your school systems and anything like that, I mean, I've posted the agendas. You can read on there. But if you want to come out and see what it's like to sit in a board meeting and things that are going on with the school system, come on out. I think high school graduation will be pretty much confirmed that night. I believe it's on the agenda, or it's on the agenda. Maybe it's just the confirming of it. Come on out to that. I was trying to think if there's anything else. Easter's the following Sunday.
When they declared Kentucky a state of emergency because
Right.
of this flooding,
Right.
did they appropriate so many days for schools?
When hang on here. I don't know about this time, but I know the last time that we were off, and then House Bill 241, we got 5 additional days.
Okay.
Sadly, we used 4 of them this week. So,
Yeah, I understand.
ain't nothing we can do about it. Like we talked about earlier with the water, there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, Mother Nature has just ran rampant this year. Hopefully she'll disappear and go away for a little while. But, I mean, she's been hectic on us. We're going to come and see you in the morning. You better be there. I thought she told you she was going to be there today, but obviously she wasn't. So, I don't know, man. She is going to be there Sunday, I'm pretty sure, for this
I'll be
class.
there tomorrow.
If it's anything else during the week, chances are she ain't going to be there. But for her carry conceal class, she usually is on time. And if you really love to eat, about 11 o'clock, I'll come over and get you guys some pizza. Yeah, I quit going over there, but, I just come during lunchtime. Hold her beer. She's showing it all. But, yeah, so you got any announcements and anything going on? Will we be back next week, you think, before Easter?
Oh yeah, we'll be back.
Okay, I was going to say, because I know Easter Sunday's next Sunday, so it's like,
Hard to believe that we're there.
that is crazy. Well, last year it was on March 31st. This year it's in the middle of April, so I'm like, how in the world does Easter change like that so much? Especially that big of a gap in between. I don't know how that works, but all right, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in except for one person, and hopefully he'll never tune in again, and we'll never have to hear from him again. Mother Nature, hold her beer, Mother Nature. I see what you're saying, Melina. I thought you was talking about yourself.
Dude.
We thought you were talking about you. It's like, we ain't gonna hold that for you. But yeah, everybody stay safe. It's the weekend. Normally we're here on Thursday, so it's going to be a good weekend. Don't drink and drive. Have fun. Get out and enjoy the weekend. If it ain't pouring the rain or cold, mow your yards. Whatever it is you need to do. I got mine mowed and it rained again 2 weeks in a row. Yes. Goodbye, Brock. Hopefully he's gone for good. Since the mission has been complete. In 1 year, man, we survived 1 year of a secret mission. I don't know exactly what that means, or me and you's going to be hunted down like wild game, or what's going to happen. But everybody stay safe, take care, have a good night, and we'll talk to you next week.